I don't think you know what
We're gonna
American values are. I don't think you know what
We're gonna do this one.
this country was founded or
I
built
heard
upon.
this
And I think
was
you guys are obsessed with a cult
crazy
leader
town.
who is taking the entire Republican Party off of a cliff.
Everything he say he do. Trump is gangster. Remember.
Can you give me one thing you don't like about Trump?
I love
Gangster.
everything about
I know,
Trump.
because it's a cult. Thank you.
It's not a cult.
These are gonna be interesting
My
people.
name is Stephen Bonnell. Online, I'm known as Destiny. I debate politics on YouTube at youtube.com/Destiny. Today, I am surrounded by 20 Trump supporters. My first claim is that Donald Trump is unfit to be the US president.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you.
All right, so you say that President Trump is unfit to take the presidency. Why is that?
Oh, I recognize this guy. I don't know what from, but it might be a clip from this. I don't think we've had someone who's fit to be the United States president in a very long time, including now. But let's see.
I would say that one of the most important
I'm pretty sure this came out slightly, like just before the election.
values that we have as Americans is our form of government and things like respecting the peaceful transfer of power. I think that being able to concede when you've lost an election is really important. So I would argue that the events that took place leading up to and on January 6th are in and of themselves, among a whole bunch of other actions, immediately disqualifying for the office of president.
Is that who I think it is back there? I think that's Andrew. Yeah, I think that's Andrew. Okay, this could get very interesting.
Okay, so Steve, let's talk about January 6th. What happened that day in your mind, and why does that disqualify President Trump?
I think that Donald Trump was unwilling to accept the results of the elections. I think that he fabricated slates of electors in order to
I'm surprised he's at a place that he's not allowed to smoke.
have his vice president pick him to be the winner in the Capitol building on January 6th, even though he didn't have the votes or the evidence to support it. I think that is a wholly undemocratic thing. I think that it is destructive and undermines our democratic process of governance.
Do you attribute the violence on January 6th to
Yo, this lady in the back, I recognize her too. She's insane. She's a crazy person. This is definitely going to be interesting.
Trump?
Largely, yes.
Okay, why?
I think that Donald Trump had been stoking the flames a year before the election, saying that the election was going to be rigged. I think that Donald Trump stoked all of these claims basically with no evidence, and then I think that he continued to stoke the flames while fabricating them, that the election had been stolen, that there was voter fraud, and then he invited people on the day of the certification, telling them that their election had been stolen, their country was being taken from them, they needed to fight like hell, that they were going to lose everything. He knew what he was inviting them there for. He knew what he was asking them to do. He knew, yeah.
He also told them to go down to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically, right? What time
did.
Yes, actually I have. I know he just did a bunch of like Jubilee style stuff. I should put that on the list for next time. I'll add some of those to my watch later, and we can get into those on next stream. This will probably be the last video we watch tonight, but and then I should be back Wednesday night and Thursday night for shortish streams. But yeah, here we go.
Protesters first go into the Capitol. What time did they first enter the Capitol?
I think it was around 10 a.m. I think is when the Capitol grounds were breached.
No, 2:11 p.m.
No, to be clear, that's not true.
2:11 p.m. is when protesters first entered the United States Capitol.
There's the grounds that were secured outside, though.
Okay.
Those grounds were breached while Trump was still giving his speech at the Ellipse.
Okay, let's talk about the entrance of the Capitol, because that would be more severe in your mind than simply walking onto the property, right? Can you concede that point?
Probably not. I think they were all really bad, but yeah.
Okay, well, entering the Capitol, let's just mark that point. 2:11, what should Trump have done at that point?
As soon as the Capitol grounds themselves were breached, he probably should have put out a statement on social media telling people that they needed to go home instead of telling them that Pence had failed them and basically encouraging the violence to continue.
So what if I told you at 2:38 p.m. President Trump tweeted, "Stay peaceful"? He tweeted that to his supporters, "Stay peaceful."
He tweeted
27 minutes later.
He tweeted that after Ashley Babbitt, I believe, had already been shot and killed.
Okay,
so what does it mean when you tell your people to stay peaceful? They're not being peaceful. That doesn't make any sense,
p.m.
right?
2:38 p.m., 27 minutes after the Capitol protesters had entered, he said, "Stay peaceful." Okay, at 3:13, he said, "Law and order." At 4:17, he posted a video saying, "Go home now." So what on earth was he supposed to have done? I'm not happy about some of the violence that we saw on January 6th, but let's put it in context.
Well,
Steve.
wait. You just said it. You just said what he should have done. The tweet that he did at 4:17.
No, that was a video. That was the third call.
It was the first time that he told them to go home.
Stay peaceful 27 minutes after the Capitol protest had entered the Capitol.
After Ashley Babbitt had already been shot and killed. They weren't being peaceful. Why are we saying?
Yeah, you can't tell stay peaceful doesn't count after the fact. Stay peaceful means you were being peaceful, and now you're saying continue. Like, that doesn't excuse it.
Stay peaceful.
How many
At this point,
protesters
Pence
were
had
there?
already been.
How many
Doesn't
protesters were
matter.
there on
This is a red
January 6th?
herring.
How many?
Hold on. Do you acknowledge that people broke into the Capitol?
What do you mean by break into the Capitol?
Bro, what do you mean? What do you mean? Of course they broke into the Capitol. It's on video.
As in smashed. They entered it illegally. They broke down
100,000
barricades.
people
What-
were there that day. How many were charged with crimes? 100,000 people there. How many charged with crimes?
Do you acknowledge that people
How
broke
many
into
were
the
charged with
Capitol?
crimes then?
How many people in the BLM riots were charged with crimes? This is a red herring.
No, it's
How many
not.
people? Who?
You said they're violent.
Did
How many
they-
were there that day? 100,000. How many were charged with crimes? It's the largest FBI investigation history. 1,553
It's not relevant at all.
have been
It's
charged
not
with crimes.
relevant.
How
It's
can you
not
say they were
relevant.
all violent?
It's not relevant.
How can you say they were all violent?
The first people
Okay.
that got into the Capitol, did they?
Is-
I don't think he said it's all violent. He's just saying that it was bad. And that there was violence. And both of those things are true.
Is
break in?
January 6th your only
Did they
reason
break
why
in?
he's unfit?
Wait. Did the first people into the Capitol break in?
Is January 6th the only
Why won't he answer? That's a simple question. Just answer it and move on.
reason he's unfit?
Are you unwilling to answer that question?
Is January 6th the only
Are you
reason?
unwilling to answer? You can say yes, you don't want to answer it, and then move on because you know the implications are terrible for you. That's
Listen,
fine if you want
The reality
to.
of the situation is
The reality of the situation is people
What
broke
is
into
the
the
number
Capitol.
one voter
They
for
delayed.
voters? What is
They
the number?
delayed the
What is
certification.
the number
of the
one
vote.
issue for
They
voters?
delayed the certification.
No, actually, they were not waved into the Capitol. They were led to parts of the building that there weren't senators and congressmen in, that were empty so that they couldn't do more damage or hurt people.
What is
Of the
number
vote.
one
Did they
issue for
not?
voters?
It doesn't.
The vote was certified. Was it not certified?
Was there a delay in the certification?
Was there not- was
there
it
a
not
delay in the
certified?
certification?
It's
It was
absolutely
because the
certified.
National Guard showed up and they kicked the people out after Donald Trump was forced to tell them they were going home after watching them
is-
break in for 3 hours
what
and
is
do
the- hold on.
nothing. By your own
Let's just
admission,
have a
they
let's
said.
have a productive
No,
conversation.
we're not having a
Steve.
productive one because you're not answering any of my
You're
questions.
keep going. Okay.
Yeah, I asked you a very simple question. The first person that got into the Capitol who wasn't allowed in, how did he get in?
They walked into the Capitol.
No, they broke in with a riot shield that he's stolen from an officer.
Okay, and that makes President Trump unfit for office.
Do you acknowledge that that happened? Are we living in the same reality right now? Do you
There
then
wa-
acknowledge that
there
that
was
happened?
violence on January 6th. I acknowledge that. There was
Do you
100,000
see how I'm making a
protesters.
specific claim?
1,500.
Do you know what 1 + 1 is?
I do.
What is 1 + 1?
I think it's 2.
Okay, good.
I
Okay,
think-
okay.
I think.
We can answer a
But
question.
math
Okay,
is
let's get
racist. Math is racist.
first
Steve.
Yeah,
person-
they're not gonna get to the end of this. He's gonna he's gonna get voted
The
out.
first person that got
like
into
any
the
second
Capitol
now.
building, how did they get in?
You are arguing that Trump is
Hey, let's
unfit.
try this. Do you know what 2 + 2 is?
I
4.
well,
Who
I
was the
think-
first person into the Capitol building? How did he get in? Why not just
Listen,
say he broke in?
Is your entire argument about January 6th yes or no?
Well, my biggest argument right now is that conservatives are delusional and they don't exist in the same reality that we
Why
do.
must
So
you
any other
attack? Why
conversation-
must you attack
Pause.
75 million voters?
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to
Bro, that smile is so creepy. Like, just have the conversation. Why are you doing like the smiley shit? Oh, that is definitely Andrew. Now that his face isn't blurry.
your seat.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Not everyone all at once. Jeez.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
How are you, Dusty?
Pretty good.
See you again.
Yep.
So, you don't think Donald Trump is fit for office based on January 6th.
Among
However,
other things, yeah.
we have to admit that January 6th was compromised. There were patriots and there was Antifa. There were people
No.
who were, yes, there were.
there
Actually,
were not.
I have video of it. Don't argue don't argue me because I actually have video of people who were on the ground. I have video of people in Black Bloc getting dressed up in MAGA gear.
Okay.
And
it's
according
1420.
to,
First of all, you
to-
don't have the video, but let's see how long
I
this
do
takes.
have the video,
Who
and
was the
according-
first person to break into the Capitol? Was it Antifa?
It was an Antifa person. Yes, it was.
You're wrong.
And it's actually, if you read Andy No's book about Antifa
don't need to
Unmasked,
read Andy
it
No's
actually
book.
talks about how they use the premise of a broken window to then allow other people to come in because people are a mass. They're a group. They're like a herd of cows. And when there's a broken window, They don't see anything wrong with walking into a building if the window's already broken. They
I
use
thought
this-
conservatives were the
they
party of
use-
law and order.
but they
If you were
use this-
outside somebody's house and you saw somebody breaking,
This
you think you could walk in
this
afterwards?
example is even continued through BLM and the riots
We're not
of
talking about
2020.
BLM
but
right now.
The
Although I'm glad it
pattern
took
is
us
the same.
40 seconds. It's
The
not
pattern
the same
in
pattern.
2020 is the same that happened in January 6th, where you had innocent people moving into a facility that they didn't know that it was wrong because the doors were already open. So you're already.
There was
and we also
broken
have the
glass
other
on the
gentleman-
floor.
We also have the other
There was
gentleman
doors that were being broken into.
Yes, by people
Everybody
who were
knew when
dressed
they
up
were going
as
in there.
MAGA. We're not MAGA.
Oh,
you
okay.
have
So
that-
were all of the indictments and the convictions for people like Enrique Tarrio, for Stuart Rhodes, all
So-
these people that have been
okay, so
directly
then
involved,
which
all the
one
video
these
footage
people-
of
which one of these people was his commander? Name one of the commanders of the insurrection.
Enrique Tarrio was the CEO of the Proud Boys. Stuart Rhodes was the
Is
CEO.
he a commander? Is he a commander in the
I don't know what their
insurrection?
official military
name the
roles
lieutenant in
were.
the insurrection.
Why do I have to name the
An insurrection is going to have people like commanders.
What lieutenant? What? What is this guy talking about? I'm pretty sure the first person to break in was arrested, and it was not some black bloc Antifa person dressed up as a Trump supporter. Also, why would they show up in black bloc and then change clothes in front of everyone? Wouldn't they just show up with Trump shit on? Like, what?
Commanders, generals, captains, people.
No, it doesn't
yes,
need
it
to
does.
at all. But the Proud
Absolutely
Boys
it
had a
does.
leadership
Yes, it
structure. If
does,
you'd like, you
because
can go
there
and
is-
read the
because
indictments. You
there
can find the
was
structure.
There was no leadership structure. It can't be an insurrection if there is no leadership structure. You can't.
I mean, insurrection is probably a strong word, but like riot, probably fine. Like it was like a protest with some rioters. You know? There were some people doing shady shit. I don't know if it rises to insurrection, but like I don't understand this dude's point.
Can't even name one of Donald Trump's commanders in this.
I don't
And then
need.
this
They're
gentleman-
all
this
listed in the
gentleman
indictments. I already
told
gave you the
that Donald
CEO
Trump-
of the
that
Proud
Donald
Boys.
Trump-
They're the ones that
Donald
broke in.
Trump made 4 tweets, and those 4 tweets didn't even make it out of his sphere.
Why didn't they get Andrew on that versus 20 Christians episode? I have no idea. I don't think Andrew likes doing Jubilee stuff. If anything, they should do Andrew on the versus 20 atheists one. Have him sit in the hot seat.
Because they were immediately suppressed by the media.
They weren't.
He might not be big enough yet. That might be why. Because like obviously Jordan Peterson is way bigger than Andrew, and Alex O'Connor is way bigger. Destiny's a much larger platform. Andrew's certainly getting up there, but this was a while ago, so
Weren't
That is
suppressed
that,
at
yes,
all.
they were
He
deleted.
sat-
They were
no,
deleted.
They weren't. You're
They were
right. You
deleted
can
by
go and
Twitter.
see those tweets.
He
still.
brought them out on stage on his town hall and said, "Look, here are the tweets that you deleted." How do you explain that other than
How do you explain
a fascist
Donald Trump? I
system
can
who
explain.
doesn't
I can,
want Donald
I can
Trump?
explain. Yeah, the calls for peace came 3 hours.
No, they
while
didn't.
he wait. So do
He
you
just
wait?
told you
Do
that
you
it came
acknowledge?
22
Do you
minutes.
acknowledge that Donald Trump sat in his room for 3 hours before he told people to go home, watching the
Donald
violence
Trump
unfold?
gave a speech.
You won't answer a question.
Donald Trump gave
I don't
a
care.
speech.
I don't
You
care.
don't care about the facts.
I don't.
then.
No. I'm the one. I'm asking a very simple question.
don't care
can't
about
answer.
facts.
I can answer your question if you answer my question. Do you acknowledge that he sat for 3 hours?
No, he didn't sit
watching,
for 3 hours because he gave a speech during those 3 hours.
no, he gave the speech before. This is from like his own cabinet and like his family and stuff.
At the very
Yes, he did.
end, he went after the ellipse speech was done. He went back to the White House, and then he sat in a room with a Diet Coke, and he watched the violence unfold.
How do you know this?
Because it's accounted
Were you
for
there?
by like testimony.
Were you there?
How do you know what's happening at the border? What's happening in China? Are you there? What do you mean?
Oh, that is such a bad faith question. Jesus. Were you there? I mean, were you there when the Earth was created? Yeah, they had already breached. They had breached the grounds. And then I think the speech was over by the time they breached the actual Capitol building. And then from somewhere in between those until 3 hours later, he apparently sat in a room drinking Diet Coke or something. There's like a meme about like he had a specific soda. I can't remember what it was, but
This gentleman is actually.
Hold on. Are you? I'm sorry. Is your claim that the only way that you can know something is if you personally
But you're
witnessed
making
it?
these claims that he sat there. And
I'm
did
making this
nothing.
claim
When
based
I'm
on
telling you
hundreds of
that he
hours of
tweeted over and
deposition
over again to
testimony
tell his
by people
supporters
that
to
have been
go
in
home
front of a
patriotically
number
and
of courts, in
peacefully.
front of the J6 committee, in front of the media, in front of the.
Okay,
There are so
pause.
many different people that are willing to testify to all of this.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thank you.
Please return to your seats.
there must be some pre-planning going on because none of them are all, they're not all jumping up at once like all the other episodes. It's a very interesting vibe.
Hey, what's up?
So I think that, you know, we've been talking about January 6th. I'll be the first to say that, and I think a lot of people here would agree that there were bad actors that day. I'm someone who comes from a family of law enforcement, family of military, so I believe in law and order. And so I do believe that there were people on that day who took things way too far. And I think most Republicans understand that. From people that I had talked to on the ground, I think that the media blew it up into something bigger than it was. Again, I'm not saying that people who broke into the Capitol shouldn't have, but I do believe that there's a lot of people who are misled. You know, there's evidence that's coming out with all the tapes that are coming out from January 6th, showing police officers were actually escorting people through the hallways. So to say that every single person who entered that building is, you know, a criminal, I think a lot of people.
Just to be clear, that's never been my claim. That every single person entered was the building is such a boring and uninteresting claim. I would never waste my time making it.
Okay.
The reality was, I do agree with you on your fundamental. There were a lot of people that were misled. I do agree with that, and I think that Donald Trump was behind that misleading the entire time. The people were there because he was tweeting out at them saying, "Come here for a historic protest." It was obvious what the protest was going to be. They were protesting the certification of the vote, and what happened.
President Trump never told anyone to break into the Capitol. President Trump has always run on a campaign of law and order and to respect his police. Okay, where has he? Where's your evidence of that?
The whole plot on.
The first half of that sentence made sense, and then the second half of that sentence didn't make a lot of sense. Trump has definitely tried to get around the legal system on several occasions. But it's true, he didn't specifically call for people to break into the Capitol.
January
Let's let
6th
them.
was to break the law, to have Mike Pence choose him to be the president.
At what point did President Trump tell people to break into the Capitol?
No. When he wanted Pence to choose him to be the president.
No. But talking about breaking the law.
That's a.
Oh, they're talking about two different things. I think they're talking past each other.
That's breaking the law. The law was the Electoral Count Act. He wanted to break that law.
What you're saying is that you had that he was inciting an insurrection.
He was doing that as well, yeah.
He was inciting an insurrection and telling people to basically
people they needed
break
to
in.
fight like hell or they were going to lose their country.
Okay.
He said that they needed
how does that have anything to do with breaking into the Capitol? Yes,
I think
again,
it was just
there
so
are
then
bad
let me just so just to be clear. So he told people to go to J6 because it would be a historic something, a historic event. When they all got there and they showed up at his speech at the Ellipse for an hour, he riles them up, telling them they're going to lose their country, that they're trying to steal it from you, that we need to fight like hell. Giuliani was just on there before saying trial by combat. He said all these things, and then all these people, he said, we're going to march down Pennsylvania. They all marched to the Capitol.
Is there anything wrong with protesting outside
I'm
of the
just
Capitol?
asking, like, was the
Yeah, insurrection is a little inciting an erection. Yeah, that might be more accurate. Insurrection it was a bad look. Breaking into the Capitol has not happened in a long time. That is not a thing that like Americans do when they lose an election. That has not happened in a long time. We've had all kinds of other sorts of riots and protests and stuff in cities and all that fun stuff, but breaking into the Capitol to prevent the certification of the vote is not something that happens very often. Or I can't think of any time in history. I mean, there's probably some way back in the day, but it was a bad look. Insurrection seems like a bit heavy of a term. And it's like an inflammatory term too. So like now you're just, when you say that, like maybe you have a point about event was bad, but it's like when they call all conservatives fascists. It's like, okay, now we're just going to argue about like the definition of insurrection instead of actually talking about the event. Like it's not, even if it is true that maybe by some definition it was an attempted insurrection, just saying that isn't helpful or useful.
The fact that there was a break into the Capitol, and for the first time in U.S. history, the vote certification was delayed. Was that just a coincidence? Was that a I just want to know that before you ask a bunch of random questions. Was it just a coincidence that a break-in happened and the vote was delayed? Was that a coincidence?
Because people broke into the Capitol, that can't be blamed on President Trump. He is always,
so it was a coincidence.
President Trump
Can you say that?
President Trump has always ran on law and order and for people. And
So,
Yeah, the definition of fascism is a very confusing thing for a lot of people, because it when they say it, they really mean authoritarian, because fascism is very, very specific. That's a very specific word that refers to like a very specific formulation of the government and the economy. And it really doesn't apply to anything going on here. So they just use it interchangeably with authoritarian. It's annoying.
Yes, there were bad actors.
It was a coincidence.
But let's move to the certification.
It is insane.
No.
This is crazy, right? You have nothing about you as law and order.
In 2016,
your family is
in 2016, I've already said that there were bad actors. In 2016, Democrats questioned the election of President Trump. Yes, they did. Sheila Jackson.
Concede. He's not going to answer this question either.
Sheila Jackson.
Won't answer it. I'm going to ask it again when you're done.
Sheila Jackson and two other Democrats had spoke and said that they were going to question and to hopefully delay the certification in 2016 when President Trump was elected. And
when did Hillary Clinton concede?
And look,
the answer is that night, right? The answer is that night. Was the certification of the vote delayed?
Okay, so
the answer is no, it wasn't. Was there a riot at the Capitol? The answer is no, right? So none of what you're saying is relevant here. Yeah.
I am from Arizona. I was in the middle of the elections in 2022. I've been there. I saw what happened in 2020. There are serious questions about what.
No, there aren't. You think
okay, hold on.
Okay,
I'm from Arizona. I've worked in this.
From Arizona. I don't care that you worked in it.
I've worked in politics.
Every single court case on this failed for good reason, right?
It's failed on standing.
No, that's not true. A lot of them were tossing evidentiary, number one. And number two, wait, do you agree that standing is important for a case?
Let me get to my point.
You have no point. You're fabricating information in real time in 4K.
There is serious.
Or maybe 1080p if that's what they broadcast in.
Okay, pause.
Serious questions.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Yeah, once you start doing like oh my god, it's getting late, so I'm forgetting what words mean. Anecdotes about living in Arizona and stuff, I'm not surprised he got voted out.
Please return to your seats.
Okay, they are all in cahoots. They have to all be in cahoots, because they haven't fought over the chair one time. They haven't fought over the chair at all. They must be in cahoots.
I'm way behind you, so I just see the back of your head.
Okay.
I'm
Hi.
Sartre, nice to
What's
meet you. I just have questions.
Oy, this chick looks crazy.
I like to ask people questions. I'm interested in hearing how people think. So when you're talking about the insurrection on January 6th, what would you describe during when Kavanaugh was elected to Supreme Court and you had all the protesters at the Capitol? They were banging on the Capitol doors. They were screaming. They were yelling. How do you feel about that?
I would have to know the specifics of the event. I don't recall any proceedings being delayed. I don't recall there being a top-down call from the president to lead these.
You don't remember that they had to stop the congressional meetings because people were banging on the door and being so loud and trying to break into the doors?
Proceedings for. If they did, then that's bad.
Wait,
Just to be clear, this is the difference between me and you, okay? Is that if everything you're telling me is true...
I'm a female. I'm a female.
You're
so that's
Make America Great.
I'm a female. Oh God. I'm gonna guess she's gonna get voted off in 20 seconds. That's my guess. Yeah, the bully, the... Okay, let's see. 20 seconds. That's my guess.
Great
I'm
again,
a,
Hash.
fe-
so I
I'm a
don't-
female.
One,
Yeah, I just
Okay.
put
two,
it on. I had a
That's
cowgirl
the
hat
difference
on
that I'm
before.
talking about. I don't
So I'm
care
a
what you're
female.
talking
I'm a
about.
female, and you're a male, and
5,
it's almost like you're
six,
attacking me because I'm a female.
I'm
Are
not
you
attacking you at all.
anti-female?
8,
Are you anti-female?
9,
Half the time I am,
Oh,
okay?
10,
But what I'm
okay,
saying
that
right now,
11. Are you anti-female about half the time? Based.
You're honest. At
what I'm
least
saying,
you're-
I'm very
at
honest.
least
But
you're
what I'm
honest.
saying, yes, I am honest, which is why I'm saying that if
Sweetie,
this happened,
sweetie,
if
can I
this
ask you
happened-
another question?
I didn't
Hey.
even answer your first question.
No, you said that you didn't know the specifics.
Yes,
that
but
isn't
but
answer, so
what
I'm
I'll
not
tell
gonna
you is
force you.
that
I'm not
what-
gonna force you
you're
into
not
a yes or
forcing
no.
me. I promise you can't force you to do anything.
Okay, I'm not.
If
I
that-
feel
if
that
that-
goes
if
both
All the
ways.
numbers
I
going
said
up.
I
It
was
wasn't
like,
20
I am.
And you
seconds.
know what? The
I
people
agree
involved
with
should
you.
be arrested.
You're still
I
yelling,
would say
and I
that's not
agree
good.
with you.
I'm not yelling.
I
I'm not even
agree.
close to yelling yet. I can if you want me
Well,
to.
I'm glad you are protecting your voice because I couldn't hear you before.
Okay.
So I can definitely hear you now.
You could do the maybe hair behind your ears. Go ahead.
You want my hair behind my ears?
If it's inhibiting your ability to hear me speak, yes.
Well, actually, it's because you need the bottom of your. I'm in the medical field, so the bottom of your tongue needs to be clipped. So that's the reason.
What? The What is she talking about? Oh God.
Why you have a list when you're talking.
Okay.
Anyway, if you want medical advice, I can do that, but it's better to be private
I'm
on
good.
that.
If
So
I needed
I have
a
another question.
psychiatrist
So we
advice, yeah.
agree that during the Kavanaugh trials, if people were trying to break into the Supreme Court,
It would be a
that's
bad
bad.
thing,
I
yeah.
agree with you on that,
Uh-huh.
sweetie. So, and the next thing is, I have a question
There's that sweetie again.
for you because you also brought up the border and immigration, right?
Well,
So
I
what
haven't,
would you
but
say?
I'm see you want
Actually,
to, yeah.
you did. They can play it back. So anyway, what would you say if the Biden-Harris, we have the Biden-Harris administration right now, if our border was filled with neo-Nazis with tiki torches, what would happen?
You'd probably sell a whole lot more lighter fluid. I don't know. What do you mean?
Why did she come? Why was she here? What just happened? Oh my God. That was great. I don't know what just happened, but that was whatever. She's gone now.
No, if
Okay,
our
pause,
border.
Pause. Sorry, you've been voted out by the majority.
Yeah, no shit. Oh, what? Okay, finally, fighting over a chair.
Hey, Steven. Micah. Okay, I want to talk about the alternate slate of electors and how historically that has happened before
It
on the
hasn't.
Democrat side. Yes, it
hasn't.
has. In 1960, JFK against Nixon ran an alternate slate of electors.
Well, this is the first time 2 people have gone for the chair, and we're like 4 people in. Every other time, they all like acknowledged each other, and a specific person went up. So I don't know. Maybe they're breaking ranks now. I'm not sure.
In case it was overturned in Hawaii. It was eventually overturned in Hawaii, and so then those electors were certified, and JFK won the state.
So I'm glad you
So-
bring this up real quick because this is one of the biggest piece of shit talking points that you guys always bring up, and I don't know why. In 1960, 2 slates of electors were authorized by the state legislature. Both were granted the certificate of ascertainment from the governor because they knew that it was a very close election and they'd authorized a recount, and because that recount was going to go past the some mid-December date, it's December 14th for the 2020 election, but some mid-December date for when they had to certify their vote. So they said, okay, well, we'll send in both certificates, and then on the day of the counting, on January, whenever they would have done the certification in Congress, then they can choose which one was authorized by the state legislature based on the results of the recount. Donald Trump's certificates were not authorized by any state legislature.
Well,
Do you acknowledge that?
Well,
Wait, real quick. Do you acknowledge real quick that none of the 7 slates
Hey,
that were submitted by
hey,
Donald Trump,
no.
none of those were authorized by any state legislature?
Can I answer?
You're not going to.
No, I am. No,
Boring
I am.
conversation.
No, he's not
weren't
going to.
certified. And why? It's because fraud wasn't found. It wasn't proven in court.
No, you're
So that's fine.
lying. You're lying. They
Wait,
weren't
so
authorized.
you're saying fraud was found in
No,
court?
you're lying because those legislatures.
Wait, what do you say I'm lying about?
They're lying because none of those alternate slates were arranged by the state legislatures. They were arranged by Trump and his criminal co-conspirators. None of the state legislatures, none of the state governors authorized those slates of electors.
Okay, what's wrong with that?
It's illegal, number 1, and number 2.
What law? What law says that?
You have laws that are governing how you're supposed to transmit.
No, what law? What law?
Do you want me to give you the specific statutes in Georgia, Arizona, New Jersey? I don't know them off the top of my head. If you want, you can.
Okay, so then that's a baseless claim.
It's not a baseless.
No, that is not. Oh God, that is that is not how that works. That is not a baseless claim. Jeez. Bro, JonTron destroyed himself. Okay, we all remember that. All right.
Baseless claim.
Yeah, it is.
Chesbro and Eastman.
You can't provide me a specific law.
Because I can't give you the state statute?
Yeah, if you can't give me a specific.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's not a real debate tactic. Like, that's like in name 10 books bullshit.
Specific law, then why should I believe you? There's no justification for that. You have to provide evidence for that.
Hold on. On the contrary, are you claiming there's no formal process that's codified in the legislature for how to?
Wicked. I'm pretty sure it's blue. You have to get the blue dye. That's the No, there's laws in every state that if you're going to have alternative slates of electors, all slates of electors have to be certified by the state legislature. So the Hawaii one that they're referring to, those were all certified by the state legislature. They knew that there was something weird going on with the vote count, so they certified both slates so that they could get them to Congress. And then by the time the actual certification happened, they had finished their recount, so they pulled the ones that were incorrect. This is a different situation. But not being able to, like, if a police officer can't read off the frickin' exact statute, like, you're still going to jail. Like, it's not a good argument.
Send you transmit your electoral votes? Do they just do it randomly?
No, of course I'm saying, of course there's laws that are involved, but you can't point to the specific law that says that is.
I don't know the numbers.
And so your claim is baseless.
It's always crazy to see that you guys will carry water. Even Trump's own people don't deny this because they know that they're dead to rights because the emails have leaked, the conversations have leaked, the Twitter posts are there that we can see from their accounts.
No.
Really, what did I just say that was wrong? What one thing that I just said that was incorrect?
You're getting upset because I'm pressing you on.
No, I'm not. You're not pressing me at all.
Yeah, you're getting upset.
Floundering.
Dude.
You're like a magic carp. You
See,
have no idea what you're talking about.
When you have to resort to personal insults, that's when you know you're losing.
You already said that I was lying.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, all right, this kid his face is.
So you can't name a single thing I'm incorrect
Yeah.
about. I can name multiple things you've been incorrect about. You were incorrect.
And then now you're not letting me get a word. I think.
I
think you're just speaking for yourself. You're making yourself look foolish.
Okay, go ahead.
But okay, yeah. I mean, there's 10 seconds.
Go. Give me your hardest claim.
Again, it was for the same reason. You can compare the election of 1960 to 2020. It's the exact.
No, you can't. They're completely different things. He did insinuate that it was a Pokemon. So yeah. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't thinking the Pokemon. I'm not sure.
Exact same thing. They did that in case their cases actually came to fraud and they found fraud in the election.
That's time. Micah, please return to your seat.
What do we got
My
next?
next claim is that Harris would be a better president for immigration and the border than Donald Trump.
I don't know, man. I think they both suck.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Did you guys see this? One sec. This dude is just slow. Like, he gets up first, clearly, starts walking over, and the other kid just fucking just guns in there.
Oh, hey, what's up?
Long time no see.
All right, so they've officially broken
All right,
ranks. They're not on the same
why
team
would
anymore.
Kamala Harris be better than Trump on immigration?
Because I don't know if Trump even knows what's actually wrong with the border.
He does know what he's What do you mean by that?
I think that Republicans don't know what is happening right now with the problems with their immigration system. A lot of people think that the issue is with illegal immigration. It's not. The problem is that our asylum process is completely and totally broken right now. And the problem is the only way to rectify that is to change the laws governing, or at least some of the regulations governing the asylum process. And when there was a bill on the table to do so, Donald Trump blocked it to keep the border open for an election issue. But as it stands right now, you could have the biggest, strongest wall in the world with the best gun.
I remember that bill. It was kind of a mid bill, honestly. There's like, Destiny's going to make an argument that we should change all the laws involving the border and blah, blah. He's going to either fight that argument on the grounds that the bill was shitty in general, or he's going to make the counterclaim that, oh, the prompt is up at the top. It's well, it's kind of hard to read because they used white lettering on a tan background, but it's Harris would be a better president for immigration on the border. And he's probably going to make the argument that like they should just so the thing about our asylum process that's broken is that once you get on the list, you literally sit on it forever and you can just hang out in the country. So the problem is that we don't have nearly enough judges processing the claims. And they're not like properly managing the people. I'm sure Destiny's going to get into all this, and then he's going to be like, well, Trump's going to deport everyone and lock down the border, and that's good. But we have to do both things, which is why I don't think either of them would be that great for the border. I don't know that Kamala would have actually done anything, but yeah, exactly. It's years if you show up. It's a mess, and it's because we don't have enough judges processing the claims. There's a bunch of other little problems. I'm sure they're going to get into it though. I don't want to take over on this topic. This all came up like 8 months ago, so I'm a little fuzzy on the details now.
Guns and all the people manning it, it would make zero difference on illegal immigration. They would still come up and claim asylum, and there's nothing you'd be able to do about it.
So do you think there's problems with illegal and illegal? That's what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, it's different classifications of immigrants, but like asylum seekers aren't technically illegal immigrants, even though Republicans call them that. When they're doing the asylum seeking process and millions of people are here waiting to hear their case, technically that's all legal, which is an issue.
Okay, but why would Kamala Harris be better than Trump? You said she understands it better. I think everybody understands the issue, but I think the Democrats and Republicans, at least the establishment, they don't want to fix the issue. So,
well, but if they, so I don't think everyone understands the issue. So every single person sitting here doesn't believe me when I just said that the laws on the books and the asylum process are the main issue. They think it's just people illegally crossing the border, right? The reason why I think that the Democrats would do something is because
they're not enforcing laws on the books.
They are
people
enforcing.
that shouldn't be
they
here
are,
are
that's
here.
the issue. They're enforcing them.
Yeah, but there are people that are illegal here and they're not being sent back.
That, I mean, that's a whole other deportation.
So they're not enforcing the law then?
Well, who's they?
The government.
Which one? The state governments or the federal
All
government?
of them.
Well, the federal government doesn't have the resources to go in and try and find every single potential illegal immigrant in the United States. There's a whole bunch of
Well, we
issues.
just sent how many billions?
Well, I mean, it kind of seems like they're doing that now. Yeah, I don't know that Kamala would have actually like fixed the asylum issue. And it does seem like he's able to use the federal government to deport people now. It seems like we're deporting a lot of people. I don't know. Sorry about that. I think, yeah, I don't remember her really saying anything during any of her speeches that alluded to her fixing the asylum problem. But again, we'll have to wait and see the numbers because, I mean, the most deportations happened under Obama still, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that was still the most. So we'll have to wait and see. It's only been a few months. We'll have to see how many people are actually getting deported right now. Because it could just be the news like making such a big deal about each individual one so that it seems like tons of people are getting deported. But we'll have to see.
to Ukraine. Like, we have the money, we can hire people. There's a lot of people in this country, so it can happen.
So the
But we're
majority
choosing
of like
not to.
80% of the aid we send to Ukraine is in the form of like used weapons and stuff.
Right.
But secondly, it's just a matter of, even if you say we have the money for it, I mean, we would have to appropriate the funds for it and everything else to do it. Like, it's not a matter of simply saying like, oh, we're going to triple the size of the DHS or ICE or whatever to do
But
it.
so now you're saying, so you want to be tough on immigration, right? And you think Kamala Harris is going to be tough on immigration, just generally speaking. Like, she's going to crack down on it, deport illegals, send them home.
I don't know. I'm not necessarily, I'm not talking about being
Because-
tough on or deporting. I'm just saying that to fix the issue we have right now, which is
But to
way too many
fix it,
people
we
coming in and claiming asylum. It's
So
not
the
good.
fix, we got to stop people coming in. So we need to
Well,
build.
the issue is we need to stop the asylum process, or we need to figure out a way to make that better.
Right, but there's multiple things that need to be fixed. It's a multifarious issue. And Kamala Harris originally says that
Okay,
ISIS
pause.
is the KKK.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please.
There was an argument behind all the words that were coming out of his mouth, but he was not able to articulate them at all. Also, his face is extremely off-putting.
Return to your seats.
His is too. Jesus.
I'm Luke, by the way. Nice to meet you.
I think he meant to say multifaceted, but it just came out like a blob word.
So I just wanted to briefly talk about, you're talking about this Senate bill that failed the House. What is your argument with that? Because as far as my knowledge with this bill, it was $118 billion. That was the financial standing within this bill. Within that, $60 billion of that $118 billion was going to go towards Ukraine. Only 20, I have the chart with me, only $20 billion was going to go towards the border. $10 billion was going to go towards Gaza. $14 billion was going to go towards Israel. This Senate bill was a bad bill.
He got it
off,
close.
Second off, it was just a disguising bill to give more money towards Ukraine. So you talk about that bill. That's
So just
the
as a
only
real quick thing,
Democrats
so
really
these,
have.
so this is the argument that was floated initially, but the problem is they tried to reintroduce this bill on its own, and it still failed.
But
because
the
Donald
bill
Trump-
itself was written poorly. Within the bill, they're going to cap what is the average weekly immigrations at 5,000. That's still way too many people.
Do you know what it's capped at right now?
What is it capped at?
Nothing. That's why it was a good
But
idea.
that 5,000 is still way too much. Why don't
What
they
it-
cap
what
it
it allowed
at?
it to-
Why don't they
what it-
cap it at less?
What they allowed
And
it
you
to
talk
do,
about
real quick, so what they
asylum.
allowed it to
Less
do,
than-
what
you
they
know-
allowed it to do is it allowed it to say if there were too many people coming in, they could put a 2-week moratorium and completely shut down people that were coming to the country to seek asylum.
But
that was one thing that the bill would have allowed it
Border
to do.
Patrol
That right
isn't
now
even
they
doing
don't
their
have
job.
the ability to do.
And
They are
these
doing
are
their
these
job.
are for
They
individuals.
are doing their job.
These are the individuals that are not or that are seeking asylum. Do you know how many individuals that seek asylum actually filed their paperwork for asylum?
Well, if you're coming
It's
here
less
to
than
get a,
half. No, it's less
if
than
you're,
half.
if you're
They
coming
use
here
it-
to get a slip to go to
they're
court, then
using
they have to.
asylum as an excuse. The process which comes with people that come for asylum, the easiest and most, I guess, used process, they come typically through San Diego or Arizona. They put these individuals on a freight train, send that train to New York. They house them typically at the Roosevelt Hotel. Other hotels in New York are also being used. Then they give them an identification bracelet that has a number, basically like Nazi
So
Germany.
all of this is fine, but
Let
the
me,
reality-
please let me
reality
finish
is- I don't care
talking.
about
I'm
any- none of
respect.
this-
It doesn't matter.
I
I'm
need the whole
respecting you.
walkthrough on
Have
the
some
New York-
respect.
Okay, let's talk about the asylum process.
Okay.
Right? If Democrats wanted to allocate more money to
Well, I think 5,000 per day would be like processing 5,000 claims. The ideal would be that like a bunch of them would get denied. But instead everyone's just like sitting around waiting for a court date that may or may not come in the future. Well, not anymore, but this was 8 months ago. So he's bringing up, he being Destiny, he's bringing up some good points about things that we do have to fix. He's not making the argument that Kamala would have done them though. Yeah, but it was supposed to come along with money to increase the number of judges that would be processing them. So like of that 5,000, not everyone would have been allowed to stay. So it's a bit of a, it wouldn't end up being 2 million new immigrants a year. It would just be 2 million processed claims. So that, I mean, if they all got accepted, then it could be 2 million a year, but I don't know. The bill never passed, so we'll never find out how that would have played out. But he's not making he's not saying anything that Harris would have done. He's just saying that these things would be better, but I don't remember Harris saying she was going to do any of these things. Like, I really don't. I remember her, she had some tax credit stuff she was talking about, some housing she wanted to build. I don't remember anything else. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think she was actually going to change anything.
To the judges to process the claims faster, to allocate more money to border security, to make sure people weren't coming in illegally, and then to be able to put a moratorium if too many people were coming in. Wouldn't all of these things help?
If only less than 50% of people that are actually coming for asylum are filing their paperwork, none of that matters. We should be starting. How are you getting
a slip to go to court for an asylum judge if you're not filing your paperwork?
What I'm saying is these people are using asylum as an excuse to get to America, to use our resources. Do you know how much money that we've spent? So there's two different types of immigrants. Well, two different types of illegal immigrants. There's gotaways and there's give-ups. Do you know what each one is?
Catch and release versus
no. So give-ups are individuals that typically their families are typically asylum seekers that they intentionally want to get processed through border control. Gotaways are typically criminals, which there's 14,000 murderers right now that are within our country coming through the border. Gotaways alone, which are typically criminals, we are spending $450 billion a year just to support these criminals that are coming through the Gotaway process.
Okay, so all of this is great, but it returns me back to my other question. If people are doing this by abusing the asylum process, it feels like a bill would have helped, and Donald Trump has done nothing.
Because before we can have any type of bill that basically funnels down asylum versus gotaways versus give up versus criminals versus all that, you need to have a secure border.
Yeah, but let's say right now,
that was not going to help. That was not going to help in the securing of the border.
Let's say that you secure the border 1 trillion, feet tall on the wall and everything.
Okay.
Everybody else comes up and they still do the exact same asylum claiming process.
What do you mean everybody comes up?
As in you go to a port of entry and you say, hey, I'm here to claim asylum. And
if you have a closed border that has a stricter process for whoever's coming through, which one of those processes, which was extremely effective, was our Remain in Mexico Act.
So it wasn't that effective?
Yes, it was. The Biden administration revoked that act as well as 94 executive orders that Trump installed during its administration. There was a reason that our border had a 50-year all-time low. And I want to ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, this kid is a little confused about the asylum process. Honestly, I feel like they're both losing on this one because the claim, like, if they were just having a general argument, maybe I would give Stephen a +1. But the claim that started this was that Harris would be a better president for immigration, and he's not really making that argument.
Please, do you condemn 14-year-olds being raped? Yes or no?
Number two.
Yes or no?
Number two.
He doesn't. Do you condemn 14-years-olds being raped?
Obviously,
yes or
I would
no?
condemn 14-year-olds.
Do you condemn?
I'm not going to play this game.
Do you condemn? Do you condemn Lincoln?
Oh, now he's doing. Yeah, now he's got a +1 because he just devolved into non-debate tactics. He gets the +1 now because now he's doing the whole like, do you condemn criminals hurting illegal criminals hurting Americans? And then you're at the point where it's like, bro, that's not relevant to like the process. Like you've moved on to a whole other nonsensical topic.
Riley's murderer who came in and murdered her, who was coming through an illegal Gotaway process. Do you condemn that?
I don't care how they got here. I would always
do you condemn the 321,000 missing children right now that we cannot find at the border?
I don't even think that number is real.
Yes, it is. It's 321,000
I've heard all the fake numbers
missing
before.
illegal.
They're not. Yeah, so this fact check is right. They're not missing. They're just, we don't know how to track them. Like they get picked up by family or like sponsors and then we just stop tracking them. So they're calling that missing. I mean, some of them might be missing. There's no way to like know this number though.
Children.
Do you understand?
So wait.
Well, yeah, it's some of it's family, some of it's like sponsors. So it's not actually like relatives. It's like you get like sponsored once you get here. It's very confusing and weird. But then they're not like keeping track of them. And so they're calling them missing. But like if I leave my freaking keys on the table and then I just don't look at them again? Are they missing? Or did I just stop looking for them? So there, who knows what the real numbers there are, because they're not tracking it at all. So it's not like, I mean, they might be now. This is all 8 months ago, though.
I'm giving you facts right now that are presented.
Yeah, exactly. We just, we don't know where it is. Yeah, it's pretty much the same as that.
Through ICE,
How do you
that
have
are
a secure
presented
border?
through FEMA, that
How
are
do you have a
presented through
secure?
Homeland
No
Security,
comprehension of the
which-
issue. It's just numbers. You're just regurgitating
The
at me.
comprehension of
I'm
the
asking
issue
you a very
is our
simple
border.
question. Let's say that you secure the border. How
All
does that
you
help
do
the
is you
asylum
do this
process?
to get people amped up. People are dying. Kids are being trafficked.
I'm asking you a simple
Drugs
question.
are coming through.
If you
Fentanyl
secure
is
the
at an
border,
all-time high.
90%
all
of
you-
the fentanyl in this country comes in through legal people. It's not
No,
always
it does
trafficked into
not.
illegals. Yes, it is.
During the Biden administration, fentanyl, an average yearly pound of fentanyl is 15,000. It's exceeding 15,000. During the Trump administration, it was less than 2,500.
That's more
pounds.
numbers that have nothing to do with
Because
what we're talking about
exactly,
right now.
'cause
Yes,
all
it's
you
just
do is
random
distract
numbers.
from that.
No, you
These are
don't
facts.
understand the issue.
Yeah, my dude's going way off the rails here.
Yes, I
can't
know
own
they're
up to the
facts.
People
Yeah,
are
it's not
dying
about a
here.
fact.
And
That's
all you're
great.
concerned about is trying to be right.
I'm trying.
And they know they're voting
The
him off.
difference is
Do
I
you
want to
care
fix
about
the
people
problem.
dying?
You
Yes
don't.
or no?
You don't. If you
Really, I don't?
You don't care.
Really,
You don't give
how
a
would I not care?
because you're supporting the president that blocked the bill that would have fixed the problems. You don't
I'm
give a fuck
supporting
about
the
it.
president
You
that
don't
kept
care.
our
When you
borders
see
secure.
The Rileys or the Lincoln Rileys and all these.
I don't think that the bill would have fixed the problem. It wasn't the best bill. Yeah, because it's way easier to get in through Canada. Just like miles and miles of forest for the most part.
These people getting killed, you're thinking, yes, it's an election issue, which is
So
what Donald Trump thought when
you're
he
saying-
blocked the bill.
So you're saying
when you see a kid
you're
getting-
saying that I was excited, like how you were
murdered by an
excited
illegal-
that
yes,
Corey
you're
was
excited.
shot?
You're excited. You are excited when a person dies to an illegal immigrant, but when something goes to get done about it, you champion Trump when he blocks the bill.
The bill was
That's
a
it.
bad bill,
That's
period.
it. Really, what legislation did Donald Trump pass in his 4 years as president?
He had closed borders. He had the Remain in Mexico Act.
Remain
There
in
was
that
title-
doesn't sound like a
Let
bill.
me- let
Remain
me
in
finish
Mexico, by the
talking.
way, was responsible for keeping like 10,000 immigrants away
Title
a year,
42
which is basically nothing.
Title 42
is
allowed-
COVID. He gets no credit for that. Next.
Title 42 allowed law enforcement.
Title 42 is gone. There's no COVID.
It wasn't COVID specific.
What do you think Title 42 was?
Title 42 allowed law enforcement to process illegals that were coming through. Now
He should have just stuck to the original topic. Now that he's trying to like track Destiny all over the place, he's losing it.
they've revoked that. If a sheriff or police officer, say there's a murderer that comes through illegally, if a police officer tries to process that guy and get him, the police officer is going to be charged with kidnapping, not the murderer. The murderer is just going to get away with this stuff. You can't own up to the facts that are actually happening of the criminals that are coming through. If someone is truly coming into this country, fleeing, say it's Venezuela, fleeing a South American country or any country that their life is truly at stake, everybody here has a heart for them.
No, you don't.
Yes, we
You're
do. And how
championing
dare you
things
can
like
say that?
Remain in
My
Mexico.
family
Hold
were
on.
immigrants.
Hold on.
So how
If
can you say
somebody-
that?
In your world, in your ideal world, if somebody was escaping one of those countries and coming to the border, you're saying keep them in Mexico until we process them. Where's
Because,
the compassion there?
Mexico is 10 times safer than the country that they're
You
coming.
think that the border towns
We
that
need
are
to
being
protect-
overwhelmed by
we
people
need to
coming to seek
protect
asylum, you think that
our
that's
own country?
Oh, there it is.
Okay,
the protecting our
pause.
country.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Is
that's-
Mexico
so there's
safer?
no heart for the
Pause.
people coming
You've
in.
been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Yo, they held on to that last flag for a while. Now they're fighting for the chair.
Jeez.
Oh, it's
I'm
this
glad
guy
we
again.
agree that there's a problem with the asylum system. And I actually
Well, we don't agree. I think that, but
Well, I'm agreeing with you that there's a problem with the asylum system.
Okay.
I actually think you care. I've been following you for a while. I actually think you deeply care about this issue and how it's affecting the American people. I do believe that sincerely. What is for the tens of millions of folks who are going to watch this video, just what does asylum as a process represent to you? What does it mean to qualify legitimately for asylum?
to legitimately qualify for asylum,
Yeah.
there's like official characteristics for it, but basically the place that you're fleeing, you're being persecuted for.
Yeah, it is weird that like there's a lot of stops along the way. Asylum is a strange concept because like theoretically it should just be like the next closest country. But Mexico, they're not going to keep them. Mexico sent them right back.
or some characteristic or trait that we think that you obviously shouldn't be persecuted for, and you're facing like severe threats to your existence, and so you have to flee the country, and then you're basically coming to the United States saying like I'm basically stateless, I can't go back to my home, like me or my family's at risk, and can you basically take me in and me become a citizen that way, basically.
That's exactly right. You're fleeing racial, religious, ethnic persecution. Absolutely. Poverty wouldn't count as asylum. It's a fact. Poverty doesn't count. You have to be fleeing a particular type of persecution. If poverty is a coincident factor there, then but the persecution is key.
Sure, I'm gonna hesitantly agree with you, but like let's say you're facing poverty in like Syria, where it's like a collapsed state, then it's like I can see that being different. But in general, yeah, if you're just poor, you probably shouldn't be able to come here and seek asylum for that.
Absolutely.
Agree with that.
And so that's why 90% of asylum claims are rejected. Let's talk about Remain in Mexico. You brought up that you think it was a failure, it seems.
Yes.
Why is that?
One, I think there were a lot of lawsuits in the United States that were starting to look promising, I think, in terms of overturning it. I think the ACLU had gotten a victory in the 11th Circuit or the 9th Circuit. And then also because just the number of people that were being kept out from Remain in Mexico, I want to say the total number over, I think it was like 3 years, was like 30 or 40,000. It wasn't that many, like, altogether.
But isn't that actually a sign of its success because it was a successful deterrent? Think about it this way, Stephen. If you got people who are fleeing religious persecution and you got folks who are fleeing poverty, the people who are actually fleeing persecution, they will happily go to Mexico and wait for 6 months for their case to be heard.
I don't know if that's always the case.
Well, but
if you're fleeing and you literally have nothing, you're like a destitute family, and now you're sitting on like a border town, like waiting months and months, maybe for your.
But that's better than religious persecution in Syria, right? I mean,
it might be, but ideally in the United States, we could process you almost immediately, and if you have a legitimate claim, we could house you here.
Absolutely, right? But how?
I kind of agree with what both of them are saying. Because Mexico isn't going to keep them. Mexico's asylum system, like, they don't, or they're not into, they'll just reject everybody. But we should be processing them like immediately. It shouldn't be like years waiting, hanging out in the United States until we've lost track of you to process your asylum claim and either be like, yes, you can stay, or no, get out of here.
How do we keep the fraud out of the system? I thought Remain in Mexico, wherever you are politically, was a good way to do that. The idea was that if you're actually fleeing persecution in Syria or in East Asia or in Africa, you would be 99% better off in that camp in Mexico where it is protected, where you have food, where you have humanitarian resources. That keeps the fraud claims out. And so to this bipartisan border bill, well, first and
yeah, I don't know. What if you're not coming through Mexico? Do you have to go through Mexico? I don't actually know. Oh, well, I think you just have to go to a port city or something like that. I don't know. It's very confusing. We definitely need to. It's all got to be ironed out. What's wrong with keeping people out? Nothing necessarily.
Foremost, 9 Democrats, including Elizabeth Warren, actually voted against it. So Donald Trump didn't kill it. Donald Trump was opposed to it for the same reasons that many Republicans and some Democrats
to be clear, would that
were
bill have
opposed to it.
passed? Would that bill have passed without Donald Trump telling Republicans not to vote for it?
No, it would not have.
Okay, that's completely and totally incorrect. But
What's your
people
proof
can
of
look
that?
up.
Well, listen, let's just talk about the substance of it.
Well, the proof is that like it would have passed. People like McConnell, people like Cruz are literally saying like we're not voting on this bill because Donald Trump has told us to pull the plug on it. But the idea was that it was going to pass.
So what would that bill have done to deter the fraudulent asylum claims that are keeping out legitimate folks who are fleeing persecution?
Well, I think that right now the biggest, there's an amalgamation of laws that make it so that because the asylum system is so backed up, I know that if I go to the United States, even if my claim is total bullshit, I can run to a port, claim that I'm an asylum seeker, and I know that they can't process me right now, so I get a slip saying, okay, we'll come back to court in a year or two, and it's like, I'm in, and you're done. At that point, you just disappear, right? But if they could process you almost immediately, you show up and you're like, hey, I'm a asylum seeker. It's like, oh, cool, we'll come talk to the judge. You're like, okay, well, fuck me. Then the motivation to come in and try to get in fraudulently that way, I think dramatically decreases. And one of the big things that the bill helped with was providing a lot more judges that would be allocated for these things and a lot more funding for it, et cetera.
So just to correct that point, there weren't actually judges. They were funding custom officers who don't have law degrees, who are biased one way, who are more likely to approve asylum claims that might end up proving fraudulent. I think.
Wait, hold on. Who processes the asylum claims? If eventually you have to sit in front of a judge.
No. And just clearly here, customs officers under the bipartisan border bill would be then given authority to process these claims. They don't have law degrees. They aren't judges. Judges typically kick these cases, but in this particular bill by Langford, it would actually be customs officers.
Customs officers would make the final decision on whether or not a person gets into the
And that's how you build up capacity. Because
Yeah, no, that's not acceptable. It needs to be, there need to be immigration judges. We need more of them, and they have to process these things quick. So that we can have less people all coming in. Like, it should just be like legitimate asylum. If that was what was in the bill. I don't remember that specific line of the bill. I didn't read the entire bill. I just read the cliff notes because it was fucking long. But and it's been a while. Again, this all happened like 8 months ago.
Hire more immigration judges. There aren't enough people in the country to take those
I think you can. I think the issue is that the judge number has been capped since, I think, the 80s or the 60s in terms of how many judges are allowed to hear these claims. So we haven't had more funding that was allocated
Why
towards
not
actually.
bring back Remain in Mexico? It absolutely works, Stephen.
Because I don't think it necessarily works, number one, because not that many.
Yeah, because they wouldn't really necessarily, I mean, we could create like a separate training program specifically for asylum approvers that wouldn't necessarily be judges, but they could have like very specific training for this one thing. But I don't think that's what the bill was doing.
Many people were kept out. And number two, even as a matter of policy, I don't know if the idea to the country to the south, the was like, hey, listen, there's not people coming to asylum. We're going to go ahead and store them in your country while we wait and process it. Yeah. I don't know how even Mexico would feel about that. I don't know if the conditions would necessarily be safe for those people either. Because I thought that one of the claims that I heard.
Just stick everybody in the Matrix. That might work.
So much from the Trumples was how unsafe all of these like border towns had become because there's so many people building up there. So why would you want to stick a legitimate asylum seeker there and keep them there? Would you agree that if somebody was coming here to legitimately seek asylum and it was a legitimate case, they would probably be good to take them in and house them immediately?
In an ideal world, absolutely. But we need to also separate those who are abusing the system. Again, 90% of those claims are fraudulent. But let's,
so then shouldn't we increase the funding to process those claims as quickly as possible?
I think the deterrent is better in Mexico. But Stephen, let's agree to disagree, okay?
Okay.
Great.
That was all pretty fair and reasonable, in my opinion.
Jeez.
So,
right.
Okay, actually, he's been snubbed now twice, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna let him have it.
Right.
Wait, didn't he already go up?
Time, okay?
So,
oh no, that was that other
The
kid.
bipartisan border bill is that it only gets activated on a mandatory basis if there are 5,000 people per day crossing the border. I agree with you that the asylum process is.
Now the other thing, Destiny still hasn't made the claim that Harris would actually do these things, and that was his original claim. So while I agree with a lot of the points that are being made back and forth, the prompt claim has not been addressed yet, in my opinion.
The problem, but that bill also expands protections for asylees or people seeking asylum, the bipartisan border bill, which is a problem. I think that HR 2 was much more effective at preventing like people abusing the legal.
HR 2 might have been more effective from a conservative standpoint, but that bill was DOA, and everybody knew it.
Because Democrats didn't want to vote for it.
Because I don't even know if it would have had.
Yeah, he's making a lot of claims against Trump, but he's not. He did this in another debate too. It was supposed to be like, why should you vote for Harris? And he was just saying bad things about Trump because I don't think he actually supports Kamala Harris. I think he's just trying to like get Trump to look bad enough that you would end up voting for Kamala as like a side effect. But he's not making any positive claims as to why Harris would be better. So it's not really yeah, that didn't really work out for you guys. I don't think anyone wants an open borders policy. Well, there's like some crazy leftists that want that, but well, then that blonde chick would have to agree with him, right? Because she's a female.
Do you think that it would be a win for Democrats if they passed HR 2? Like, politically speaking?
Probably not. That bill went much further.
You don't think that it would be good for Joe Biden's image?
No.
Wait, hold on. HR 2. One sec.
asylum, the bipartisan border bill, which is a problem. I think that HR 2 was much more effective at preventing
Oh, the other bill.
like
Okay.
people abusing the legal
HR 2 might have been more effective from a conservative standpoint, but that bill was DOA, and everybody knew it.
because Democrats didn't want to vote for it.
Because no, I don't even know if it would have had Republicans.
Do you think that it would be a win for Democrats if they passed HR 2? Like politically speaking?
Probably not. That bill went much further.
You don't think that it would be good for Joe Biden's image?
No. I think that
really?
I would have to
Why?
go back and read it because I think that bill was way more extreme in terms of like processing people. I don't think it was a very popular
Yeah, it
bill at
eliminated
all.
parole, which I think is a good thing. There are a couple other things, like I haven't read
But
it.
the bill was DOA. There was no
But
popular.
either-
there was no
either-
chance in hell that was
Well,
passing
okay,
anything.
the bipartisan border bill was terrible too.
No,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bipartisan border
it
bill was
terrible.
it was that would have passed less Donald Trump.
Right, but it didn't address the current issue. There's about 1,000.
It did address it. It might not. You could say it might not have addressed it adequately, but it would have been a big step in
Stephen,
that direction.
there are about, okay, yeah, right, but the issue would have to get about twice as bad as it currently is. There's about 1,900 people who cross per day currently. Under the bipartisan border
No. She's a female. Okay. And that's why she needs to uncover her ears so she can hear better.
bill, on a mandatory basis, the emergency powers can only be
That was hilarious. That whole interaction was hilarious.
activated if 5,000 people crossed over.
But where's Andrew at? Let's get Andrew in here. I like watching them argue.
the border daily over a 7-day period, right?
Yeah, but then after that happens,
Right.
you can shut the border down for 2
Right,
weeks and
right,
process
right.
zero.
But you can
claims.
only the bill, the emergency powers given in the bill can only be used for 270 days of the first calendar year, 225 of the second, and 180 of the third. And in addition to that, if it drops below 70% of that mandatory number, 5,000, which is about 3,750, which is almost exactly double what it currently is, it gets automatically rescinded. The powers go away.
I don't believe the powers.
Yes,
I
they
believe
do.
They have the
I-
ability.
Stephen,
hold on.
read
How
the
can
bill.
anybody come in if they're not if they're processing zero claims?
Wait, what do you mean?
If they're processing zero claims, once they
No,
hit
it's not
that
on the basis of
threshold-
claim. It's on the basis of crossers. So 5,000.
No, but it shuts down asylum claims as well. That was the nice thing about it. We don't have an
Sure.
issue right now with illegal immigrants coming into this country. We have a problem
we
right
do.
now.
Absolutely
I know.
we do.
Yeah, stay fucking mad because you guys can't fucking read. That's fine. The problem that we have right now is with asylum seekers.
I agree
It's
with
not
you.
illegal immigrants.
I agree
right?
with you. And
the
this
two-week
bill
moratorium was
expanded
about-
protections for asylum seekers.
Yeah, but it also gave the
So
ability for the border to
your
shut down
argument
asylum.
is dead on
people.
arrival.
No,
Yeah,
2
yeah, yeah.
weeks.
I bet Andrew is waiting to jump in when it has something to do with the January 6th stuff. Because I'm pretty sure recently before this, they had a one-on-one debate about January 6th that didn't really go well, if I remember correctly.
Shut down. What is our moratorium right now on people claiming asylum?
I don't know what the
Zero. It's nothing.
Right.
So this would be
Okay.
better,
Okay.
definitionally.
You said earlier that like you were talking about I forget who it was with like the 5,000 cap on a mandatory basis or whatever. It's not a cap. That's not a cap on like. the
No,
amount
it's
of-
like a 7-day rolling
Well,
average.
well,
that when
yeah,
you
yeah.
come
Let
out, you
me
can-
finish.
yeah.
It's not a cap on how many people can come into the border. Obviously, 0 people are allowed to illegally cross the border, right?
But you wait,
Oh, wait, I'm
people
not
coming in for
finished. Wait,
asylum
let
are
me
not
land my
illegal,
plane.
right? Do you
Let me
acknowledge that?
plan-
People coming and claiming asylum are not
Yes. I agree with you. Let me land my plane. Okay. So that's not a cap on how many people can cross the border. Obviously, it's illegal for anybody to cross the border. It's a cap on power.
Okay, pause. Sorry, time's up.
Okay.
Please return to your seat.
It's good talking to you, man.
Hey, before we go any further, we
Oh, you think I'm gonna watch your weird Jubilee ad? You've lost your minds. All right, claim 3. Donald Trump's economic plans would increase inflation and devastate the economy. I've been hearing a lot of mixed reviews about that. We have retrospect now, so.
Hi.
Well, back when this was aired, which was before the election, we had less people coming in illegally because they knew how to use the asylum process to just kind of like get in and then just chill here. It's probably shifted back now a little bit, but there was like a weird point in history where it was mostly asylum seekers because you didn't have to come in illegally. You could just game the asylum process to get in, and then technically you're here legally, and then you just disappear. And now you're illegally here, but you're like using a legal process to get in here, and then eventually you become illegal by basically just not going to court. Very convoluted. The whole system needs to be revamped.
So under the Trump administration, inflation was consistently at 2%. Under Biden-Harris, it's 5.5.
What do you think the biggest contributor to the Biden-Harris inflation has been?
Well, you could say the
Probably there were probably a few, but I would say probably the biggest one, probably COVID. Because Trump started to get janky near the end, and then it just continued into them. Yeah, printing is bad too. But for that specific time period, that was that was like the second half of the pandemic stuff. We'll see what his answer is. I'm not sure.
supply
I'm just
chain,
guessing.
but I would say the bills that they passed, the Inflation Reduction Act, had nothing to do with inflation. The only reason inflation's kind of at 2.5 now is because they raised interest rates. It has nothing to do with what they've done.
Okay, so what was the huge event that probably triggered a ton of inflation
Oh yeah, he's gonna say COVID.
because of all the knock-on effects from it? There was a really big event that happened in the past 5
You're
years.
referring to COVID?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So COVID happened. So if we look at Donald Trump's administration and we look at what he did, he ran massive budget deficits. He did nothing to cut spending. He did giant tax cuts, right? And he pressured the Fed to keep interest rates
Well,
low.
Harris adds like $1 trillion per year to the.
Yeah, but at least they can argue for why they would have deficits, right? Because they're trying to save us from a massive recession, which more or less they did.
We already hit recession a couple times.
No, not really, no.
Yeah, by the letter of the law we have.
Okay, if you want to say that we have, then it was a soft landing at worst. Okay, but it's nowhere near as bad as it could have been. But at least we were coming into an economic crisis they probably had to spend for. Why did Donald Trump run massive budget deficits when he was sitting on a great economy that he inherited from Obama?
It wasn't a great economy.
It was an amazing economy. The stock markets were posting all-time highs for like 3 or 4 years before he even came into office.
And the guy even higher under him.
They did. They continued to grow, yes, but why did he have to run budget deficits to do that?
I mean, his tax cuts actually helped everyone. It helped me as a middle-class person.
Of course, because he did deficit spending. Deficit spending always helps. It gives you more money. Yeah. But how would this ever help inflation?
Well, there was no inflation under Trump.
Yeah, because the economy and everything in the world was growing too, right? COVID hadn't shut everything down yet.
Right.
But I'm saying that Donald Trump's administration.
Even his last month in office, that was 1.4%. Biden can't even get that in his best.
Yeah, but are we gonna cite like the year of COVID as like these are the?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you want to be fair too.
Yeah, this is kind of like a non-start argument because COVID totally like bonkersed the entire economy for like, well, we're probably still recovering from it in some ways.
Under COVID, the last few months, unemployment was terrible. So if you want to go off that too, but as soon as the country opened back up, they try to take all this credit, all these jobs that were just bounced back.
Sure, and I think that's pretty stupid to say that we created this many jobs or whatever. So I'm not giving them credit for that necessarily. Of course they would. But I'm just saying that when we look at just for inflation, everything that Donald Trump talks about when he wants to come back in his next term seems like things that would just be inflationary. He wants to tariff everything.
Well, he wants to drill more, which will lower the price of everything.
We already are a world producer in energy. I don't know how much drilling more is going to help. But I mean, he also I don't even know how we'll have the people to drill because he wants to increase tariffs on every single product in the world.
Well, just stuff made out of America.
What?
Which will benefit the American.
Yeah, but if it's made out of America, then what? Then who's going to be drilling when we're all busy like making clothes and making shoes and making the most basic fundamental products?
Well, not all of us, obviously. Stuff still come from overseas.
Why? He wants to tariff all of it at 50 to 1,000%.
Nah, he didn't say 1,000. He said 100.
He said a lot of numbers in that Bloomberg interview that he did yesterday.
I think he did say a lot of numbers. And the stock market did take a hit, but isn't it kind of coming back? And most of that's based on speculation. Yeah, I don't know.
Said 1,000 for some of them. But yeah, he says he wants to tariff everything. He said 10 or 20% was too low. He wants to manufacture everything at home.
And then when Harris went on The View and said, would you do anything different than Biden? She said, no, can't think of anything. No matter how people are struggling, how the world is, she can't think of one thing she would do different.
Well, I mean, the United States is ahead of the rest.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stock market isn't even like because of the tariffs. It crashed. Well, it didn't really crash, but it went down a lot because of speculation on what the tariffs might do. So the stock market's not a great metric in the moment to like figure out if something is working or not, because it's all based on speculation. Okay. Obviously we're gonna watch that again. Okay, everyone's paying attention. We're gonna watch the tackle here. Yeah. All right. Here we go.
Jesus.
Bro. Bro, chill. Jeez.
Now, Stephen, that was very inflationary. Okay, that was very high.
Well, hold on. To be clear, I'm not a huge fan of just like stimulus stuff because I think it has a lot of inflationary pressures.
Sure.
I think forgiving student loan debt, I think would also be massively inflationary in a lot of bad ways.
Massively.
But
That
none of
was
those things
amazing.
come close to the total economic destruction that would be wrought on this country with across the board universal tariffs to every country in the world.
Were you concerned by the tariffs in the first term?
Yes.
Okay. Why didn't we see the inflation in the first term under Trump under these tariffs that you're so concerned about?
Because I think that raising prices and everything can kind of be masked through the allocation of money to other assets, especially when the economy is growing. So the world economy is growing, right? Because a lot of people can buy things, a lot of money can transfer to a lot of different places. Inflation has to do with dollars chasing supplies of goods, basically. And if the supplies continue to grow at a really high rate, you can probably afford more deficit spending. But the issue is that I don't think that Donald Trump was intelligently saying like, well, I can probably afford a deficit spend here because of the economy. I think he just likes to spend because everybody does. And I don't think that Trump would have the ability to rein it in, as he said multiple times in his Bloomberg interview yesterday. But also, like, the big event that was contributing to inflation over the Biden administration was probably COVID and a lot of the knock-on stuff from COVID.
American Rescue Plan, for example, the unemployment rate had already been cut in half. 100 million people had immunity to the virus, and yet we put $2 trillion of heroin into the economy.
The United States is also outperforming every single other G7 OECD country when it comes to metrics like inflation and how our economy is doing as well. So I think we probably made the right choice there, right?
Well, Stephen,
wait, would you say that we made the right choice there with like the American?
I disagree. I disagree.
Okay. So which country should we have acted like?
Well, I'm going to hold ourselves to the American standard, which is to always do the best thing and not to compare ourselves to others.
Okay,
Listen,
so we are outperforming everybody else, but you think we should be doing even better. Okay.
Stephen, if I'm the best alcoholic in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I don't want to be the best of the worst. I want to be the best compared to my own standard.
Okay, but to be clear, you're talking about a world where every single person is apparently an alcoholic.
Stephen.
I'm just saying that you're trying to point to an economic policy that you can't point to in any other country in the world. And we measure things.
8.5 million Americans.
Relational to other countries, and the fact that we did.
I haven't interrupted you. I haven't interrupted you. With all respect, I haven't interrupted you. 8.5 million people are working multiple jobs to keep up with inflation. You've got 7 million prime working age men who are not in the labor force. 37% of Americans say that their children's life will not be better than theirs. This economy is hurting a lot of people right now. Do you accept that?
No. What's Donald Trump going to do to improve that economy?
Well, let's talk about that for a moment. Let's just talk about that for a moment with all sincerity.
Sure.
What problem does tariffs try to address, Stephen?
In Donald Trump's world, or what? That's a very general question.
Objective speaking, when you look at tariffs, what does it try to solve for?
Tariffs can be levied for a variety of different reasons. The two most common reasons that are given is that one, it can be foolishly employed to try to protect an industry. So you would tariff other people to make your own industries more competitive. These require across-the-board tariffs, so not specific ones. And then a second reason could be for issues relating to, say, like national security. So for instance, I want to tariff these people's abilities to manufacture microchips or steel, not because I think we'll be economically better off, but because if we get into war with them, I don't want to be relying on them for process.
I think the latter case makes a lot of sense, by the way. If you get to war with China, now listen.
Although I would be honest about the latter one and say we don't do it for economic reasons, we do it for security reasons.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. And I agree with you on that. Does China have tariffs on us? Yes. Does Europe have tariffs on us? Yes. It's not free trade when they're rigging it against us and charging us to send our products over there. So the question is, Stephen, if they're putting tariffs on us, hurting our workers, hollowing out places from Middletown, Ohio to parts of Appalachia, why can't we put in place a deterrent that says, look, if you're going to rig the system against American workers, we are going to level the playing field. We got a real problem in this country, by the way.
If this was, hold on, real quick.
Stephen, I want to just, Stephen.
You asked me a question. You asked me a question. Whatever economic plan or whatever you're talking about using tariffs, sure, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Whatever you're saying, that was nothing to do with the Trump administration. What you're saying is you're talking about getting into a tariff war to try to bring tariffs down or to force somebody to engage in negotiations to bring tariff down in order to re-enter trade agreements, kind of like when Donald Trump renegotiated NAFTA into the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, right?
And
but
you know
however,
but
you can't just say
Stephen,
Donald Trump doesn't say
the threat of tariffs
that's great,
to bring them to the
Donald
negotiating
Trump is not
table.
talking about using tariffs to get more people to negotiate. He wants to create an autarky. That's his goal. Do you acknowledge that Donald Trump wants us to manufacture everything at home? That's all of his rhetoric. Do you acknowledge? He doesn't say it. Okay.
No, Stephen, just one second.
Yeah.
He wants us to employ the working men and women of this country to give them a fair shot.
Our unemployment
we're losing
is already
100,000
less than
people
5%.
to opioids every year. We're losing 900 people.
We're already below. We're already below
Stephen,
what the employment should be. We're already below 5%.
Stephen, 7 million working age men are not in the labor force.
That's a great number. I don't know what that number. Hold on. Do you acknowledge that?
Hold on. Stephen, just one sec. Half of working age men who are not in the labor force are taking opioid painkillers every day. The broken industrial.
Yeah, the idea is that like if you have to pay a bunch more to get things from out of the country, then we'll move the manufacturing back here and yeah, we're gonna have to. The jury's gonna be out on the tariffs for probably another year or two until we really can look at like the long-term effects and figure out exactly what happened because we've never had tariffs like this before ever. We've had tariffs before, but nothing like this. So yeah, no, it has not been achieved. No.
And you think
policies
that
of this country.
and you think having
from
them
George
manufacture
Bush
shoes that
to
aren't
Bill
being made in
Clinton?
China is going to magically get rid of that
no,
problem?
No, Stephen.
Has
No.
anything to do
Does
with
New Balance
anything.
make in America? Yes or no?
None of this
Does
has to
New
do with
Balance make in
anything.
America?
I don't know. For the finally assembly,
Yes, they
maybe?
do.
Okay.
Yes, they do. But here's the thing,
What
Stephen.
was the point of that?
Stephen. Stephen.
Do you think that we can manufacture every single good we
No,
consume
I
at
don't
home?
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
What is the goal of 1,000 or 500 or whatever, 100%?
Where are
tariff?
Teslas made? Where are Teslas made? Where's the best-selling car in America made? In the world, rather. Where's it made?
I don't. When you say
right
where
here
is
in
it made-
America.
Hold on.
Right
What do you
here in
mean by that?
America.
Every single part?
No, the final assembly, a large.
Do you
a
understand
large
that yesterday
portion.
when Donald Trump was doing his interview with Bloomberg, he made fun of that. Donald Trump shit on companies like Tesla when he said, we do the final assembly here, we could have children do that. It's just throwing together Legos. Donald Trump doesn't like final assembly. Donald Trump wants not just the Tesla final assembly here, but all the batteries, all of the steel, every single component of that made in America. Again, your plan sounds great. That sounds like an ordinary, like decent economic plan. Donald Trump's plan is autarky. It's ridiculous.
I'm glad you like my plan. Thanks.
Okay, if you run for president, I'll support it.
I appreciate it.
He did just make a very good argument for not Donald Trump's economic plan, for a totally different one that has nothing to do with the conversation. Wasn't half bad though.
Stephen?
Hey. Yep.
All right, so if Trump is going to be bad for inflation, why is it that when he left office in 2021, inflation was at like almost an all-time low, practically non-existent at 1.4%. As soon as he left, that's when inflation started rising with the Biden-Harris administration. If he's going to be bad at inflation, why was the economy so good his whole 4 years? If you look at all the polls from any news site, even CNN, which is more left-leaning, you'll see that people in general say that they trust Trump more with the economy.
What did Donald Trump do that made the economy so good in those 4 years?
The question should be, what did he not do? He didn't do anything.
Exactly, I agree. He didn't do anything.
He didn't do anything bad.
Yeah,
he stayed good.
This kid's gonna get voted out real fast. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
He didn't have to do anything because the economy had been growing ever since Obama had brought us out of the end of the 2007 collapse. Again, another Democrat president comes in, whether it's 2008 with Obama inheriting the housing crisis, or whether it's 2020 with Biden coming in and having to deal with COVID. Yeah, he had to come in and spend like crazy.
You can't blame everything on COVID, okay?
You can blame a lot on COVID. It was a really big deal, and we are doing better than all the other countries right now. I agree. Under Biden, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, and when Trump left office, he was also in the middle of COVID too, and inflation was still at 1.4%. Why has it tripled? Why has it
Donald Trump
tripled
spent like the
under
first year of or the first like month of COVID pretending it didn't exist. I don't know if he was like the leader to point to about that.
Okay, well,
I just don't know like what's one policy that Donald Trump has given.
He's gone.
If he comes back into office, is going to help inflation.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone already. That was so fast.
Just one.
He's going to be doing tariffs, and
that makes things more expensive.
He's also going to be mining.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
So quickly.
Yep.
Hi. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, so the Congressional Budget Office in the 1980s reported that $1 to $3 billion was spent on illegal immigrants who were.
Was it a Republican? Okay.
Coming in and basically feeding off of public services. So what I don't really find appealing is that you get a lot of conversation from the right and the left asking basically everyone except Latinos what they think about this issue, okay? Because it affects us. It affects the fact that we're here, we've crossed legally, and then we're getting our image basically affected by the fact that we have criminals killing Americans, by the way. Let me just give you a few names who have died basically at hands of illegal criminals. Lincoln Riley, which people...
Bro, I've been doing the carnivore. I like to do the carnivore when I'm cutting. Eggs are out of control. Out of control.
No. Christopher Gadd, Travis Wolf, Alex
What is
Wise.
it? Wait, what is it?
Do you not care about these names?
No, I don't care about these names.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh.
I'm good.
Well, that's...
If we're having a policy discussion, no. Do
So
you want me to
this
start naming
one-
off like every black person that gets killed by a
this
police
one-
officer or whatever?
so
If you want to do
look
the
at-
BLM tactics, I mean, we can do that, but like,
Look
no,
at
I don't
this
care.
one. A 12-year-old Travis
Yeah, he's right. That's a really boring conversation.
Scott, a baby by 2 years old.
All death, all murder.
You
is
have a son,
tragic,
right?
But what is the?
You have a son, right?
Has nothing to do.
So
with
if
the
your son was
conversation.
killed at the hands of an illegal immigrant who was a criminal, you would care about the southern
I would also
border.
care if he was killed by a 15-year. I would care if he
So
died in a
wouldn't-
school
so
shooting.
wouldn't- so
what do you
wouldn't-
mean? What's the point?
Wouldn't you be
Do you think
there
that my son has a higher chance of being
advocating
killed
for
by-
the
do you think-
southern border
do you
to
think
be
that my son-
closed? You would
Do you
be.
think that my son has
You
a higher
would
chance of
be.
being killed in a
You
school
would be.
shooting or
It
by an illegal
debunks
immigrant?
you. It
What do you think?
debunks
What do you
So
think?
you don't want to
School
answer the
shooting or
question.
illegal immigrant?
If your son was killed as a victim at the hands of an illegal criminal, by the way,
This is such a pointless dog shit argument. It's okay though. He gonna get kicked. He gonna get kicked real quick.
there is a watch list of many people, terrorist groups and organizations that have been coming into our country, and it is very well known. Look, let me tell you. Okay.
Okay.
And
sorry,
there
you can vote out by
he's
the
gone.
majority.
Oh, okay.
I'm surprised that even lasted that long.
So, as everybody's already discussed, tariffs are actually beneficial to American manufacturing. Ivanka Trump brought Louis Vuitton manufacturing back to America, something that was considered unheard of.
Why do you think every single economist hates tariffs?
Why do you hate American manufacturing?
Because I hate America. I don't know. What kind of a question?
No, because manufacturing jobs actually bring people out of poverty. So what is your problem with manufacturing in America?
My problem is in America, because we're such an educated country and because we're such an advanced country, we can do more with our manufacturing.
All right, Godspeed. Look, we don't agree on everything, but this, I'm putting my foot down. Okay? I want to meet the aliens. I want to meet them. Not all of them at once, in case they're hostile. Just a handful, you know? Like if 5 or 6 wanted to come down in a ship, hang out for a while. I want to meet the aliens, you know? I think it'd be fun. I think they might know how to party. All right?
Manufacturing than making the most bare bones things that other countries might be better suited towards creating.
So
the
you
reason why
prefer-
Elon
so you
Musk came to America
So
to
you
do
prefer
Tesla
other
and
people doing our
SpaceX
manufacturing?
to do baser manufacturing,
That's
we
what
can
you're
do
saying.
more. We can
That's what
do
you're
we can
saying.
do more
You're saying that the
complicated.
lowest rung of our population isn't important enough to actually provide them a job, even if it is a manufacturing.
Well, hold on. Now we're going to get into my argument, which is that whole lowest rung should be getting a grant to go to trade school like I did and doing HVAC. Can meet them on the moon. All right, yeah, fine. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll allow it. But taking away those like horrid base manufacturing jobs, like all them dudes should be doing the trades, making some real money.
Job.
They have jobs.
What is the jobs? The ones that are being
I
taken
don't
by
know.
the
We have
the
less than
ones being-
5%
the ones-
unemployment. What are they
the
doing
ones
for
being
work? What do you
taken by
mean?
the immigrants?
I thought the immigrants were coming here not working.
Yo soy la población que más afecta a estos policías. De veras. Tienes que aprender español, mijo.
Not very well. Something about the policies affecting you. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My community is the one who's going to be affected by the policies that are
What are you talking about? What policies?
Kamala Harris's policies and Trump's policies. We benefited. My community benefited.
In what? From what policy? What are you even
Because when
talking
you
about?
bring in an unskilled labor population, they're going to compete with Americans who are also low-skilled workers.
Do you think that we have an employment?
You don't think
Hold
you
on,
don't
wait, no,
think,
I just
you
need to-
don't
I need to
think
get-
that
I
I
need to
can't
get-
pick
I
you
need
don't
to
think I can't teach Maria or Juanita to pick up a pair of scissors and groom a dog's hair? Because I've done that before. And you know what? I can replace anybody. That's called being a low-skilled worker. And anybody crossing the border can do that. You don't need a degree. You don't need a diploma to do these jobs.
No, but we do have
these
degrees.
jobs,
We're
these
not.
jobs,
America
these
does not have the
manufacturing
most
jobs,
productive
these
labor force in the
low-skilled
world
jobs
because we do
are
base
important.
manufacturing
You
jobs.
don't think these
If-
low-skilled
well,
jobs are important. You don't think these low-skilled jobs are important. That's very sad. That's very sad that you don't care about
more in the
low-skilled
United
workers.
States than just base manufacturing. We are the world's most sophisticated
Why
and
shouldn't
educated
we do?
economy.
Why shouldn't
Because
we do
do-
more
because
base
you don't have- you don't
manufacturing?
have
This is a bad argument because there are tons of low skill jobs that are not no skill jobs. If you're saying that there are people that require no skill labor, that's just not true. Like, that's such a low standard. He's basically like clowning on his own people right now. Like, kinda basically being like, they're not capable of doing anything even a little bit skilled, a little skilled, just a smidge. I don't know. This is
50 hours in the day. You can do more than that. Why wouldn't we let other countries
this is a Republican.
The
do it
reason
if
that
we can do more
manufacturers
educated work?
choose to go out of the country is because America has to pay for things like labor laws, employment, insurance, all these other facets.
Does he have
That's
high
why these
heels
big
on?
corporations will go to places like China. I have a company called BYD in my backyard that brings in Chinese immigrants and pays them Chinese wages in America.
He does. He has who in his backyard? Doing what? I don't think he should have said that so loudly. For all of the IRS to hear. But okay. Okay. Interesting.
And my representative, Mike Garcia, got that
is
organization
he nodding?
defunded because federal funding, my taxes
You think it would be better
were
if we
going
pay? So we
to
need
a
to
Chinese
pay, so we need
company
to pay,
in my
So we
backyard.
need to pay,
I would rather pay American workers
$2 an hour to make
Are those heels? I can't tell.
products.
I'd rather
Maybe
pay
your
them
company shouldn't exist in America. Maybe you should go to
$15.
China.
Yeah, he's wearing high heels. That's an interesting. He's got a lot of interesting aesthetic choices going on.
And make your company.
$20.
Go to China and make the company.
You
That
are
would be better. You should do that.
literally arguing to
Yes,
move
I'm
American
arguing that American
manufacturing out of
workers can
America.
earn more money than
You
they,
are very
no,
sad.
I'm saying
you don't love America.
Elon Musk.
You are proving that you don't love America because you don't want Americans to benefit. You don't want American manufacturing to lift people out of poverty. That is sad.
that was a crash out. That was definitely a crash out.
Hi, what's up?
So we already talked about inflation 1.9 under Trump. I think you guys like to leave out deficit spending, which was 8.2 trillion under Biden and 6.7 under Trump.
Why was it so much higher under Biden?
You could say during COVID, but you could also bring in the the total revenue during Biden and Trump was close to the same, and he was spending almost double the amount each year. And you could also talk about the Federal Reserve
Trump running such
printing
huge deficits?
Printing
You're not going to answer that
16
question, are you?
Can you repeat the question? I
Why
was
did
talking
Donald
and you
Trump?
interrupted
Why
me,
did
so
yeah? Because you want to gish gab to the next point. Why did Donald Trump engage in massive deficit spending?
Why did Donald Trump engage in massive deficit spending? I don't know the answer to that. Can you answer it?
Yeah, because he likes to spend, because it makes the economy look better.
Okay, so the same thing that Biden and Harris does.
Yeah, but they have a reason
at an
because
increasing rate,
they're
correct?
coming in under
At an increasing rate, correct?
rate to stave off recession.
Okay,
Yes,
then what
there's
about
a
the Federal
difference.
Reserve printing $16 trillion in 2 years?
What about the Federal
From
Reserve?
2021
the Federal
to 2023.
Reserve's monetary
No,
policy
because
is
my
separate
point
from
is
the
you like to blame
administration, so-
inflation only on COVID, but you don't want to take in deficit spending. You don't want to take in the Federal Reserve printing money. You also don't
If
want
you
to
want
take
to talk about the Federal Reserve rates were not only low under Trump, he pressured them to be low. He literally bragged about it in his interview, and he said that when he comes back in, one of his goals is to keep the federal interest rates low. He talked about bringing Jerome Powell into his office and threatening him to keep the rates low. So if you don't like deficit spending, if you don't like the Federal Reserve's monetary policy, if you don't like free money, then it feels like Donald Trump is literally the worst case for you.
Well, wouldn't you say the deficit spending is causing inflation? So doesn't that take more money away from
If the audience, if we'd have to go to several different comment sections on this video. We'd have to go to the comment section on the clips that each of these people posted, because technically there's no audience here. They're all part of the debate. So them clapping doesn't really mean anything. We'd have to check out the real audience. Now, I don't know enough about the economic nuances with the Federal Reserve and the deficits to like comment on this segment probably with what he's bringing up. But we'll listen. We'll see what's going
From
on.
Americans, by your logic?
I don't know if it takes more money away from America, but deficit spending can
So
lead
on,
to...
higher inflation doesn't take money away from Americans?
It can. It's more complicated than that. But yeah, it can. But I'm saying that deficit spending in and of itself is generally inflationary, but there are reasons why you might want a deficit spend. For instance, it's better to have some inflation than it is to have a recession or a full depression, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. Now, you bring up tariffs. Now, why did we extend them under Biden, and then why do we double the tariffs from Canada as well if tariffs are so bad? So when Biden does it, it's okay, but when Trump installs them, they're horrible.
So the issue is, if you're talking about specific tariffs as retaliation, because somebody else might be tariffing something that they shouldn't, if they're engaging in that, then that type of thing, as was discussed earlier, I think is okay. The reason why a lot of them came in under Trump and they weren't rescinded under Biden is because once somebody's put a tariff in place and then a counter tariff comes up, you have to engage in a negotiation to bring them down. You can't take yours down unilaterally because you just get screwed.
So do you think all economists agree that 10% tariff is bad?
Yes.
You should look at the study 2019 by Jenny Tang, Brent Newman.
I would never look at a single study on that. Yeah.
Increase in inflate or
That's time. Please return to your seat.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Well, they didn't really get to the end of that
Claim
one.
is
So.
Donald Trump is a fascist.
Oh, come on, Destiny. You can't use words like that. You know the definition. You know that that's not gonna... Ugh. I bet we're gonna see Andrew. We're definitely gonna see Andrew now. For sure. Oh, it's such a... This is such like a stupid word. Oh, okay. They pre-planned this because no one moved and Andrew stood up. This was always the time Andrew was going to come to the mic.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Destiny. Destiny, can you define fascism?
I would say the two big points.
Yeah. I could probably have this whole debate for us right now. Because it's just going to be, this is going to be a definitions argument. They're never going to get to the claim. But honestly, this one's on Destiny because that's such an inflammatory, like, he could make the argument for authoritarian, but when you push it to fascists, now there's so much other, jeez. This is going to be rough.
For fascism would be...
Wicked, no worries. I'm calling it at the end of this video. So I will be back on Wednesday and Thursday night. So you have a good night, man. Yeah, this isn't going to go well because of the word. There's so many different words he could have picked, and then they could have had a debate about the substance. But this is just, it's not going to happen. Yeah. They're going to get totally caught up in the definitions here.
Ultranationalism and authoritarianism.
Okay, what is authoritarianism?
I would say that authoritarianism is trying to centralize as much power in like a structural sense into one part of the government, and then in a broader sense, it usually means undermining a bunch of liberal values that you would find, like, say, in the first.
So then how is it that every part of the government which accrues more and more power to itself every single year aren't a bunch of fascists?
Because the government gaining power doesn't necessarily make it fascist. You could say there might be governmental overreach.
I'm
but
still not even sure what is fascist here, Destiny. What is fascist?
So
Giovanni Gentili, we have definitions of what fascism is. We have third partyists who are out there right now who are fascist. They claim Trump is a populist. Can you tell me why they're wrong and why you're right that he's a fascist?
Well, I would have to know their exact reasons for why they reject Trump being a fascist, but I would say that Trump is a fascist because I think he's an ultranationalist
these
and
are
an
your
authoritarian.
claims. These are your
Yeah, but fascism doesn't mean ultranationalist and authoritarian. This is silly.
claims,
I'm not
right?
claiming anything that those people
You
said. I've
claim
given you my
that
definition for
you claim he's
fascist.
a
I gave the two parts. I can
Okay.
explain them more if you
So
want.
let's start with ultra-authoritarian.
Why I said ultranationalist and authoritarian.
What is ultranationalism?
So I think nationalism is when you engage in a hardcore protectionist ideology that usually involves shutting yourself out from the rest of the world. That could be in forms of international affairs like military conflicts, and it could be in the forms of ultra protectionist in terms of trade and shutting down things like immigration in order to protect your own native peoples. Oftentimes there's a heavily racialized element, but there might not have to be.
Okay, well, Donald Trump, you're not saying has a heavy racialized element, are you?
I'm ambivalent. I don't really care on that much. I think that he qualifies or satisfies the term without that. But
okay, so let's dive into this real quick. If you have a president who doesn't want to get involved in foreign affairs as far as wars go, and has some type of policies which benefit.
What is this fucking this fucking bitch? Put your flag down. Like you're gonna come up and make a better argument. Jesus, put your freaking flag down. Yeah, that's basically what fascism means now. It's just people I don't like are in charge. And it's just like, it's such a pointless argument to make.
The United States over all of the nations. Is he a fascist?
No.
Well, I'm still confused as to what makes Trump a fascist.
That's because I had two parts of that, and you missed the authoritarian one.
Yeah,
What you described there before was just like protection.
Well, when you said authoritarian, what is he doing, which is accumulating all power to himself?
So he's trying to centralize power in the executive branch of the government, and specifically in the presidential part of the government, of the executive branch.
How?
How Donald Trump thinks that he should be able to unilaterally make decisions up and down all of the different departments and offices that exist in the executive branch.
Presidents use executive orders all the time.
That's not what an executive order is.
Presidents unilaterally make decisions all the time.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No,
they
don't.
do. They use executive orders all the time.
An executive order doesn't mean that you are taking power away from the departments and offices that have been created.
Right. So where's the fascism here?
Would you like me to give you specific
yes,
examples?
Give me the specific example.
Sure. So when Donald Trump didn't like the answer that he was getting from his attorney general because he was trying to direct the Department of Justice to do investigations or to fabricate claims, that would be an example of trying to centralize power just to the president, because he's undermining his own department that's been created for him, that's supposed to have some level of independence, that's tasked with doing investigations.
Let me ask you a question. Is the president of the United States the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the United States?
I believe so.
You believe so?
Unless something's changed.
Do they have control of the entire military apparatus, essentially, as the commander-in-chief?
As the commander-in-chief, yes.
Yeah. Is that fascist?
No.
So they have basically almost unilateral control by your own metrics of the most mighty military on planet Earth. That's not accumulating enough power, centralized control to one person. It's the fact that he tried to slay some fucking electors. Really?
So the president being the commander-in-chief is specifically laid out in the Constitution. That's an authority granted to him. I don't know what's fascist about that.
Well, because you said it's ultra power. It's this.
Hey now, no celebritizing the politicians, Godspeed. I see you over there. No politician worship. All right, watch it there.
Idea of having central
the
power.
Military,
if you have the central power,
I didn't ever bring that up for him, but
if you have the central power of the most mighty military on planet Earth and the codes to the largest nuclear armament on planet Earth, you already have all of the central power, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
How do the nuclear codes help you direct your Department of Justice?
Okay, I'm sorry. Is he the commander-in-chief of the United States Armed Forces?
Are you just arguing that he's the commander? I already agree with you. I don't know why you keep arguing.
What I'm arguing to you is
I'm asking you, how does the commander-in-chief use the military
to ask me? It's your claim.
I'm
asking you about your claim, and your claim is
how does that make him control the DOJ? How does the military help him control the DOJ?
Back up. That is the most powerful position I can think of for you to be in, period. How could you
accumulate? That's a powerful position.
What more accumulation of power would you want for a fascist dictator?
Gotcha. Okay, so that's powerful in that you controlled the military. That's it. That's just control of the military. Yeah. For the FBI coming to your house to arrest you, for the DOJ filing charges against you.
You said the military to do it.
Oh, they're kicking Andrew.
I don't know if I don't believe that he can. I don't believe you can. I don't think that you can.
Oh, they kicked him a little quick. He was kind of getting off the rails a little bit. He could have made a... no, I know. I'm just kidding too. Godspeed. Don't worry. The claim was silly. Andrew could have done a better refutation, though. That blonde chick had no business sticking up a flag for anybody. Like, she's going to make a better argument.
Deploy the military to arbitrarily arrest U.S. citizens.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
They talk enough outside of this. He's been here enough, I think.
Okay. You're not voting for Trump.
No.
I am. I think we can have a respectful policy disagreement without labeling one side or the other fascist or communist or Marxist. So let's have a policy disagreement here. You think Donald Trump is a fascist because of ultranationalist tendencies and authoritarianism, correct?
Yeah.
So let me just draft this vision and see if it makes sense. The authoritarianism is ruling by presidential decree, prosecuting political opponents, bringing power into the government, and abandoning our allies abroad. That sounds a lot like the Biden-Harris administration.
So
look at
I would say that.
Stephen.
No, wait. We'll go point by point.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
first of all, when we talk about abandoning allies abroad, are we referring to? So we haven't cut funding from Israel. Are we referring to when Donald Trump abandoned the Turkish people or abandoned the Kurdish people to Turkish attacks in Syria? Are we talking about when the Trump administration cut out the Afghanistan government in the Doha Accords when they were talking with the Taliban, when Donald Trump surrendered to the Taliban? Or are we talking about when Biden tried to support Ukraine with the full force of not only the United States economy and our moral support, but also by getting Europe on board to help Ukraine? The idea that the Biden and Harris administration have abandoned our foreign partners is nonsense to me. And also, it's not just about making the government more powerful. I know that Andrew.
Yeah, I think he was referring to Afghanistan, but I think Destiny's trying to point out that like there's so many other parallels to this. But we'll see.
Try to remember that. It's about centralizing power within the government.
Right, and wiping off student loan debts at the expense of working class Americans. I understand that, but let's.
So hold on. Wiping out student loan government. The citation for that was a bill that was passed from Congress. Biden tried to do that because of
Yeah, the Afghanistan thing was kind of a mess.
During it was like extraordinary times you could do something, and he tried to stretch it to that. But the
found
Supreme Court said no,
unconstitutional.
and then he didn't do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
the Supreme Court had to intervene, right?
Well, the Supreme Court made a ruling on it because it was challenged. That's the government like working as
And he stopped trying to do that right afterward, right? He said, I'm not going to do this anymore, or did he say, I'm going to keep delivering on this promise?
I think he explored other legal avenues to do it.
Okay, well, legal remains to be seen, but let's talk about.
Well, he hasn't done anything illegal, right?
Okay, let's talk
Okay.
about.
Well, he hasn't done anything illegal, right?
We're talking about.
Okay, there's no answer to that. Okay.
Let's talk about. Let's talk about October 7th. October 7th would not have happened if President Trump was in office. Ukraine would not have been invaded by Russia if President Trump was in office. You can call him crazy, you can call him anything. He was an effective deterrent because he understood, Stephen, a little thing we like to call peace through strength. Here's the truth.
The truth is October 7th probably happened likely because of Trump and his policies.
Well, holy moly, why is that?
Why is that?
Yes, please.
The reason why is because Donald Trump engaged in more reckless behavior with Israel that only encouraged Israel's expansionism without doing anything to actually address the Palestinian problem. For instance, Donald Trump agreed to moving and recognizing the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem that instigated everybody in the region, including the Palestinians.
I feel like October 7th was just gonna happen. I don't think that really. I feel like their wacky holy war is like fairly independent of whatever we decide to do, honestly. But I don't know. Yeah, we can't know any of it for sure.
Palestinians, which is why you saw the whole border riots, the Great March of Return that erupted over the year protesting that. And then Donald Trump, along with Kushner, tried to help Israelis negotiate.
Ukraine may not have happened, but October 7th feels like a stretch.
Multilateral peace agreements or more bilateral peace agreements through the Abraham Accords, again, while cutting out the Palestinians. All of this just continued to drive the Palestinian plight further and further because they saw more and more allies being isolated from them. They saw no recognition out from the United States. And then obviously, terrorist attacks is all you can do from that point, apparently. So
Trump moved an embassy, got Muslim majority countries for the first time ever to recognize the rightful existence of the Jewish state of Israel. And that justifies the heinous attack we saw on October 7th, where we killed over 1,000.
I don't think anyone said justified, but
justified
Well, you
anything.
said that Trump
I
was
said that Donald
responsible
Trump.
for
I said that
October
Donald
7th.
Trump and his foreign policy posturing is what moved us in that direction.
President Biden was in office for 3 years before October 7th happened. How possibly could that be Trump's
What did
fault?
Biden do to contribute to the conditions that made October 7th happen?
Very clear, very clear. Iran was only exporting 150,000 barrels of oil a day under Trump. Now they're exporting 1.6 million. They're making hundreds of billions of dollars a year more. That emboldens them to give their proxies weapons, money, and the vigor to attack the Jewish state. And that is unacceptable in the international community. Let me tell you
So
something
you
about
think that
President
the
Trump.
only you think
No,
that
let me tell you
Hamas,
something about
the only
President
reason
Trump.
that Hamas
Let me tell
attacked
you
Israel,
something
you think
about-
the only reason they were able to do it is because of increased Iranian funding?
Who funds Hamas?
In part, it's Iran, but Hamas gets funding from all sorts of different
Who
adventures.
funds Iran?
They were
Who
getting.
funds
They
Hamas?
get money from Qatar, right?
Who funds? Okay. Who?
Yeah, I don't really know about either of these positions right now.
Right?
Hamas. Of course they do.
Right? Probably
Who gives
more money. I think.
No.
It might have been Qatar, I think,
Steven.
actually.
Well, they give them a Ritz-Carlton hotel room, but listen.
No, they were transferring a whole lot of money to the Gaza Strip. That was one of the big things. One of the big scandals that Netanyahu was involved in was allowing that money to pass through to the Gaza Strip
Steven,
under
let's
his
just do some
supervision.
quick logical reasoning here. If Iran gets more money, that's good for Hamas, right? You agree on that? Come on.
Broadly speaking.
Yeah, come on. Just concede one thing, Steven. Come on.
Broadly speaking, probably, yeah.
Okay. All right.
There's more at play here that I'm
fine.
not even sure if you're aware of. So the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, has some amount of money that's guaranteed to it, regardless of whether exporting or importing as a
And you know
country.
what? And you know
in
what?
general, I agree with you. Sure, yeah.
And you know what? I am glad that President Trump ordered the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, because that man is responsible for death and destruction. The targets he made on the Jewish state were completely unacceptable.
Okay.
Steven,
I don't even think the targets he made on American citizens in Iraq was unacceptable.
Well-
I have no love lost for Soleimani. I'm glad the dude's dead. I'm not going to sit here and defend it, but Donald Trump doesn't do anything good foreign policy-wise for Israel. He doesn't have a vision for the region. That's why he had to basically leave all of it to his son-in-law Kushner.
Why was Crimea annexed under Obama? Why was Ukraine invaded under Biden? Why did nothing happen under Trump for 4 years? It was a complete stalemate, complete instability.
Crimea was still occupied, right?
Okay, but it was annexed under who?
Hold on. It was still occupied, right?
Of course, but
Okay.
let's be
wait.
realistic.
There was
Let's
a
be
civil
realist,
there was a
Steven.
civil war that was raging in the Donbass the entire
Did
time,
it
right?
accelerate? Did it accelerate? Was there new land
Yes, there was
claims?
more, not new land claims, but the civil war in the
Kyiv being
Donbass.
bombed? Was
No,
Kyiv being
but the
bombed?
civil war in the Donbass was still going on. What did Donald Trump do about that?
The world is safer under
Nothing.
President Trump.
It
The world was
it
safer
absolutely
under
is not.
President Trump. The world knows that, Stephen, and the world's going to show that on November 5th.
Okay.
So would you attribute fascism to maybe a dictator?
I mean, a dictator can be fascistic, sure.
Okay. So on Biden's first day in office, he signed 17 executive orders. Trump signed one. Most of the executive orders that Biden signed were to halt like the border and other Trump immigration policies.
I don't think executive orders have anything to do with fascism.
Oof, this is a long
Would
one.
you attribute those to being a dictator?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay. Well, then what other claim do you have that he is a fascist compared to...
I think that Donald Trump reaching into and trying to direct his apartments to do probably illegal things.
Well, Biden did that too with Facebook. He came out and said, Zuckerberg came out and said that Biden and Harris came to him to pretty much limit what Trump...
I don't think that was the claim. I think that what Zuckerberg said was that he felt pressured by some of the intelligence agencies to censor stories that they had censored, and he felt like he regretted that or he didn't want to do that.
Like
But
the
I don't
Hunter
think
Biden
anything.
laptop, for example?
Well, that wasn't done because of any direct pressure from any of the intelligence agencies. We saw that in the Twitter files. There was never a claim. That
Well, then why would Zuckerberg come out and say, I'm not going to...
Well, I'm talking about the Twitter
side.
files. Zuckerberg had his reasons that he listed in his letter to
Right.
Jordan, but
Oof.
none of
All
this
right.
was illegal.
Well, I'm not saying it's
138.
illegal, but I'm saying...
No.
Okay. Well, then what other claim do you have that he is a fascist compared to...
I think that Donald Trump reaching into and trying
Oh, this argument. Okay, here we go.
to direct his apartments to do probably illegal things.
Well, Biden did that too with Facebook. He came out and said, Zuckerberg came out and said that Biden and Harris came to him to pretty much limit what Trump...
I don't think that was the claim. I think that what Zuckerberg said was that he felt pressured by some of the intelligence agencies to censor stories that they had censored, and he felt like he regretted that or he
the
didn't want to
Hunter,
do that.
like
But
the
I
Hunter
don't think
Biden
anything.
laptop, for example?
Well, that wasn't done because of any direct pressure from any of the intelligence agencies. We saw that in the Twitter files. There was never a claim. That
Well, then why would Zuckerberg come out and say, I'm not going to...
Well, I'm talking about the
endorse
Twitter
either side?
files. Zuckerberg had his reasons that he listed in his letter to
Right.
Jordan, but none of this was illegal.
Well, I'm not saying it's illegal, but I'm saying, would you not say that's kind of dictatorial, kind of fascist?
No, I don't think so. It's all like out in the open.
Okay,
Like at
for
the end of the
example,
year, like Twitter and Facebook are
Let's
publishing
say
like
Trump,
how much they're
let's
charging
say
the government for
the
these.
roles were reversed, and then Trump did that to Biden. Would you then call him a fascist for doing that?
For doing what?
For pressuring, as you said, Zuckerberg or Meta to limit.
If Donald Trump's intelligence agencies had felt like there was like information that was being illegally offered into the United States from foreign enemies or whatever, and that
Well, it wasn't
department was
illegal.
like,
The laptop was proven.
no, but that was the word. The laptop wasn't proved to be anything, but that was the fear, and that was the like fear that they had shared with those companies, but they didn't force them directly to take any action. Again, we can read the Twitter files, we can go through the emails.
I'm not talking about Twitter. I'm talking about Facebook. I'm talking about Meta.
For Facebook, Zuckerberg also didn't allege any illegal action. He just said there was pressure from some of the agencies because to like censor what they perceived to be as threats or misinformation or whatever. I think some of it had to do like COVID misinformation and shit as well. I think.
Okay.
Which we can argue, like, should they have the role to do that or not? I just don't know if that's necessarily fascistic, like Donald Trump trying to direct his DOJ to like go after certain people, or trying to direct his DOJ to like.
Biden's done that.
I don't know if that's fascistic either. I agree with a lot of the things that Destiny is saying. But I don't feel like any of them are in service to his claim, which is still up at the top of the screen there, that Donald Trump is a fascist. I don't think that word applies. And I don't know why this is a problem on the left side of things, is this insistence on using the most inflammatory word to describe everything that your opponent is doing. And it's not helpful. And then you just get, now we're totally off the content of what's actually going on, and we're just arguing in defense of this word that we didn't need to use to describe a bad thing. Bad thing can be bad, but when you call it fascistic, now you're not arguing about bad thing being bad, you're arguing about the definition of fascist. It's just, it's pointless. I don't understand it.
With all the
There's zero evidence for any of that, and probably it's almost certainly not true if you look at how Merrick Garland has gone after, for instance, his son.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seats.
Hi.
I'm Tia. Nice to meet you.
Nice.
Bro, that chair could take the chair every single time. Like, that seat could take the chair every time. No problem. This whole format is so fucking weird.
Meet you.
So I wanted to hone in on the part about nationalism. Can you explain that again in a little bit more detail?
Sure. So I would say more ultranationalism than just nationalism, but it's this idea that, you know, basically screw the rest of the world. We're going to hard.
And that too. Ultra nationalism. I don't feel like ultra is like a technical descriptor. Like, oh, it's like big scary nationalism. I don't know. And I feel like ultranationalism isn't necessarily a key function of fascism either. I don't know. Let's see what he says.
Hardcore cut immigration. We're going to hardcore cut our trade. We're going to hardcore cut our association with anybody else, and we're just going to be like our own little, basically, island nation. I think it's a very bad direction to go in.
And who's taking us in that direction?
I think that's what Donald Trump wants to do.
Wants to do. He was in office for 4 years. Did he do that?
Well, Donald Trump began some tariff processes. He tried to do a full Muslim ban. He tried. Well, he took steps towards that. He took steps towards that, right? You acknowledge that he did try to. He banned 7 Muslim majority countries, right?
You're a U.S.
He did do that. He did do tariffs. You acknowledge that, right?
Do you like being an American? Are you glad to be able to live here?
Am I?
Ugh. I hate people like this. You have to answer each other's questions. And not do stupid questions like, do you like being an American is not a debate question, just for the record. Do you like being an American is not a debate question because you can't answer the question that you were just asked. That's not a debate question. That is like I have a room temperature IQ question. That's what that is.
I'm glad to be able to live here. Am I glad to be an American? I am, but I don't know what that means to you. But to me, I am.
Which is interesting because something that I've started to realize in the last few years is people who love America, who love living here, have been titled nationalists, and it's like a threat all of a sudden.
People that label themselves MAGA that say they love America have nothing to do with American values and nothing in common with the core values of this country. So they are the least American people.
Please explain.
Sure, the desire to elect somebody who says the most obviously fascist things in the world, like the media is the enemy of the people, a guy who says he wants to terminate the Constitution.
That, finally, that was an argument against fascism. The media thing. That was an actual, that actually had tangentially to do with the term fascism. So at least we got to something.
A guy who says he'd be a dictator on day one.
Who's terminating the Constitution?
Donald Trump said that he believes he could terminate the Constitution because of
It's
voter
so
fraud.
crazy because I've been hearing a lot lately from your side that the Constitution isn't necessary anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which lawmaker or presidential candidate said that?
Your side.
Which, is that the name first and last? Your side?
Yeah.
Like Miss Side?
True.
Or is she a
Yeah,
congressman or
it's
is she
your
a
side.
senator? Or I don't know which leader has said that, so I can't speak to that. I don't know who you follow on Twitter,
anyways,
so I can't
as
speak
an
to that.
American-
But anyway, you acknowledge that Donald Trump said that in times of like great peril, you can suspend the Constitution, and that he would do that for voter fraud.
For voter fraud?
He said that, yes, on Truth Social. He said that.
I'm sure there's a longer quote that I can look up later. I would love to
Okay.
do that, but I'm sure you're using it out of context.
Okay, you'll look it up later, and you won't ever talk about it again because it's an important quote. You acknowledge
Because
Donald
you
Trump
know
said
me
that
so well.
because you're on that side, I know.
Okay.
You
On that one, it was hyperbolic, and Trump did clarify, but the president's got to stop saying these wild hyperbolic things. It's not helpful.
agree that Donald Trump said that he would be a dictator on day one?
He did not say he would be a dictator on day one.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So as an American, I believe that it's a privilege and a blessing to live here. And under the Biden and Harris administration, my life has gotten a lot worse and a lot more difficult. Has your life gotten better or has it gotten worse?
I'd say my life has gotten better.
Well, congratulations. You're the only person in this room maybe. But when I go to the grocery store, and you mentioned about inflation and everything, but when I go to the grocery store and a bag of groceries is like $50 and I have 2 kids to feed, do you think that that helps me as an American or do you think that hurts me as an American?
I think an expansion of the child tax credit would help you a lot more than another tax cut for wealthy billionaires.
A couple $1,000s isn't going to change my life, especially when
Another $6,000 a year wouldn't help you at all with groceries?
She better say that it would, because everyone knows that that's true. Like, you can't disagree with that.
with 2 children,
Yeah?
this much maybe, but if the
What are
price
your
of
children
What? This much?
eating?
True. What are they eating? What? Oh, she's gone. She's voted out. That's the 11th flag.
Okay, pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Even they were like, what are your children eating? Jeez.
Nice to meet
Hi.
Hi, nice to meet you, Chrissy.
I'm Steve.
So, I would like to address, because earlier I feel like this was kind of dodged on a little bit. Earlier you directly said that Trump was authoritarian, then you said he was ultra-nationalist, and then you said he was authoritarian, then you said he was ultra-nationalist again. You kind of bounced back and forth. So which do you think
Well, I would say both. He's both, right?
Both, right. But then when the topic of ultra-nationalism brought up, you said, well, he's more authoritarian. And then that again changed to, well, he's more ultra-national.
Did I miss something? I don't remember that happening.
So which, in your mind, is he? Is he more authoritarian or is he more ultra-nationalist?
I don't know how to answer. It's like asking if a square is more blue or 5 feet.
Well, because
tall.
you
Like,
said
could
that.
be, but they're two
Well,
totally
because you
separate,
said that
like,
he
things.
was more nationalist, and then you said he was more authoritarian. You said both claims. So
Yeah,
I want to
well,
know which claim
so
is he more nationalist or is he more authoritarian?
I don't know how to say which one he's more of. He's both.
Because
They're
you
not
said that
competing
he was
things. I don't
more.
think
You
I
said
ever
that
said
he
that. I don't
did.
remember.
Yeah, he didn't. I don't think he said that. I mean, I'm going to go back and check later, but I don't think he said that.
Do you remember what was
You
his response
swapped it
to?
over. I believe it was first gentleman who spoke.
Okay, he might have said something like you said that he was an ultra-national. I said yes, and an
So
authoritarian, but
another
because
question is,
just being
why
one
is-
of these things is enough to be a
So
fascist.
why is
yeah.
nationalism at all even bad in the first place?
I don't know if nationalism is necessarily bad. I think that people kind of swap it out with patriotism sometimes. That's why there's the prefix ultranationalism. Ultranationalism is bad. It's because when you elevate your
And-
own country, just
and what
like
did he do for ultranationalism?
when he talks about putting tariffs across the board for every single other country on the planet.
So helping our country's
helping our
economy
economy.
is not. It's not.
It wouldn't be helping
so
us, and
he
he
was
did
not
the
helping our
detriment of the
economy
entire
during his presidency when he was actually literally getting us to import rice to China. Rice to China is benefiting our economy. Is that not? Is replacing China as one of China's biggest farming with ours? And as this gentleman also brought up with our manufacturing, how is bringing manufacturing over here, which is helped by tariffs, how is that
we
not?
already
how is that
we
horrible?
manufacture things here. If we've got more people manufacturing baser goods, then we can't manufacture more sophisticated goods. There's a reason Elon Musk, because you only have so many people.
Okay, pause. That's time. Please return.
Okay, she had no idea what she was talking about, but that's fine. It is what it is. Not everyone can know what they're talking about.
To your chair.
My next next claim is the Make America Great Again movement would not exist without massive amounts of disinformation.
That one, that's a decent claim. I could get behind that claim. See if he argues it well. The two claims in the middle were very hyperbolic claims, very not helpful claims. Oh, I know who this lady is.
Hello, Destiny.
Hi.
Fancy seeing you here again.
Yep.
Here to bully me some more?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
Let's get it going. Can you state some of the disinformation?
Sure. I think over the past few weeks, we've seen absurd claims relating to hurricanes being manufactured by weather machines. We've seen outright lies about the National Guard and FEMA like blowing away supplies and trapping people in their homes and lying about Biden providing financial aid to states, even though Trump is the one that has threatened to withhold aid. We've seen lies about the Haitians eating dogs and cats and Springfield. I can go on.
Have you I have a few questions.
Yeah.
Have you left the United States?
Yeah.
Where have you been?
I've been through Israel and Palestine. I've gone across Europe. I've been to New Zealand. I've been to places in Asia. I don't know what.
Okay, so you're like me. You've been everywhere. So you've seen some of these claims. You've like literally seen them to be true, or that they're false rather. So
I mean, I haven't seen how a hurricane is made.
Okay.
I haven't talked to every Haitian in Springfield. So.
all right. So what was the second point you brought up?
What?
About you said something about the camps and not looking.
she has no pushback for that one. I mean, that was a great argument. Just before the election, there was all kinds of wild shit about Haitians and hurricanes, and I mean, it was insane. It was literally insane.
Looking that way. That was my point. Have you been to these camps and have you seen the conditions and things that
The
they're
FEMA camps?
Yeah.
Or? No.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Period. The end. So you're saying no, you haven't, but you're saying it's disinformation. So how do you know that it's disinformation? Which is why I brought up the point: have you left the country? Have you seen with your own eyes what's going on in these camps? And
Do you understand that for any type of society in an advanced civilization to work, you have to be able to rely on third-party people?
Yeah, this is the exact same argument that the other guy was making earlier when it came to the voting laws thing, where he was like, oh, well, can you name the statutes? No, of course, nobody, unless that's your profession, is voting legislation, then no, you're not going to be able to name the specific statute and the specific law in each state that requires that slates of electors be certified by the state legislature. Like, no one would ever know that. It's like, I don't need to go to Antarctica to know that there's snow and ice. I don't need to go there to know that. It's just, it's absurd.
People to report to you things that are true.
Right, but there's so much fake news out there today. Exactly. So my question is to you though, is that have you seen these claims? Have you seen these places with your own eyes? Do you know what's going on?
No, but I don't have time
Would
to
you-
verify everything with my own eyes.
I
yeah.
know, because you're too busy teaching gamers how to be nerding
Because
out,
I can't
right?
verify every single thing in the world with my own eyes.
I'm pretty sure at this point, Destiny hadn't played video games in like a year. So, not that that's even remotely relevant. She's turning to Adham because she just lost her argument. And I remember who she is now. She had a debate with, we'll watch it one day. She had a debate with Destiny and he just destroyed her. It was about some like red pill stuff. And then she came back with a friend and the friend immediately turned on her and they just dogpiled her like together. It was amazing. We'll watch it some other time.
Just like you couldn't verify the fact that you enjoy getting pegged, right? Actually, you did verify that.
Jesus Christ. Just to the Adham. It's so absurd. Oh God. Why?
Anyways, but that was just a.
Technically, you need a mirror to see that, but I don't know why you'd even.
It was
okay.
it was a B-side.
Are we here to talk sex for 20 minutes? We can do that if
No,
you
no,
want.
no,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
So what other claims were like not valid or false?
How many? I mean, how many
Something
more do you
else.
want? I mean, the election.
They voted her out for that. Yeah. Classic. She's a real piece of work.
2020 election, the voter fraud claims for that were all fabricated.
You've been voted
All right,
out by
thank
the
you.
majority. Please return to your seats.
I think that both sides thrive on misinformation. I think average people don't have enough time in their lives to decipher what's true and what's not. I think that's the case for most people who work 9 to 5, unfortunately. But I think that your side also thrives off of misinformation. I think that you actually just did the meme a second ago. You said that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was just tax cuts for the rich. But in fact, people making $15,000, $50,000 received a tax cut of 16 to 26%.
Hey, plead the grift. Oh, sorry. Hey, plead the grift. Welcome to the chat. How are you doing today? Why'd your thing disappear? Oh, maybe you're not there. All right.
Majority of the money went to wealthy people.
Why is that? It's because wealthy people pay more taxes, Stephen.
Yeah.
So their share of tax burden is obviously going to be in volume more physical
Correct.
dollars. Yes.
But when it comes to the budget, all that matters is the
proportionally,
absolute.
do you concede that proportionally middle class people received more in tax breaks than rich people?
Proportionally to their income?
Yes.
Possibly.
Or their tax burden.
But the problem is the effect at the end of the day on the budget then is going to be like the biggest outlay is going to be towards wealthy people, right? Our deficits are increasing because all the money that wealthy people are saving, right?
Okay, sure, fair enough. But I think like already, 90% of taxes are paid by 50% of the country, and 50% of taxes are paid by 1% of the country. I always hear this thing of like the billionaires, the rich people aren't paying their fair share, but it seems to me that they've been paying more than their fair share since America's inception, and the middle class actually has been paying not their fair share. And I'm not saying that we should increase taxes on the middle class, but what I'm
Well, plead the grift. Unfortunately, it's going to be immortalized forever in the YouTube chat box. So it's going to be there forever. I don't really think you made a mistake, though. Looks like you just ended your sentence early. It's okay.
what I'm saying is
Either way, welcome to the channel.
billionaires are definitely paying their fair share.
They pay a lot for sure, but if you want to fund all the programs that we have, you have to tax people more.
Back to the misinfo thing.
Okay.
I mean, like
I agree that both sides engage in misinformation. I just think that conservatives do it on a whole other level. Donald Trump will get up and lie as easily as he breathes. Like if you watch any of the interviews that he gives, it's lie after lie after lie after lie.
Same thing with Kamala Harris
Not
and
even
Tim Walz.
close to
Dude,
the same
oh my
level.
God.
There's a
Bro.
reason why they asked Tim Walz, did you lie?
Bro, name one. Let's compare them. Name a thing and we'll compare the lies and we'll see whose lies were bigger. Right? That's what we do. Whip them out. Compare.
Like, were you 3 months off on when you went to China?
And then he filibustered for 5 minutes.
And then for Vance, it was, do you believe the results of the last election?
Yeah, no, I agree with
These
you.
are
He
totally different types.
refuses
You
to-
agree? Yeah, these are
refuses to
totally
answer that
different types of
question.
claims,
Sure.
right?
But like your
Walz
your
is
side's
probably not
constantly
okay.
touting
Vance,
like saying inflation is lower now than it was under Trump. Pre-COVID inflation
Okay,
rate
pause.
was 2.4%.
I had to run for that one. Why did Biden say he ran for president?
I don't remember.
Do you remember the video he released at the beginning when he launched his campaign?
For the 2020 election or for
Yes.
the? I don't remember now.
He said it was because of Charlottesville. And he specifically cited that Donald Trump called the Nazis fine people. Do you believe that?
So yes, I
No,
don't know
that's
why.
false. No, I'm sorry.
Hold on, wait. I understand what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say. It's people like to go to the so some people present this as Donald Trump saying that the Nazis were good people. He didn't. He said there were good people on both sides of that rally, but it was a rally that had Nazis. I don't know in what world you would ever say that. The full quote doesn't exculpate. It's not exculpatory at all. Therefore,
The full quote, he said, the Nazis and white supremacists I completely disavow. So he disavowed them.
after he was pushed several times to do so.
No, that's not true.
That is- you can
He
watch-
said in the
okay,
speech.
alright.
He
They
said
can
it in the
watch it.
speech.
Okay.
He said it in the speech. And they took him out of context and said that he called them fine people. Right after he said the fine people line, he said, I disavow the Nazis. So that's a lie that the Biden campaign
I
started the whole
disagree that it was a
campaign.
lie. His
It's 100%
quote on its
lie.
own of him saying
No,
there
it's
were fine
objectively
people
false.
on both
He
sides
did
in a
not.
tiki tally on a
No,
tiki
no,
torch
no.
rally, that is insanity.
He'd say disavow-
That is insanity.
No,
it's
it
one
was-
of the
it
easy.
was
This
the
was
first-
like a question on a retard test saying like, hey, listen, here's a rally with a bunch of guys. Sorry, my bad. Grammar language. My bad. Streaming language. There's a rally, and on one side you got a bunch of people with tiki torches. How would you describe the rally? And you go, well, there are fine people on both sides. It's the most easy bait in the world to say. You probably should just say that side is a bad side. Considering how much people claim that, like, you have to disavow all the BLM, all of this, all riders.
It was a protest over the removal of the Confederate statues. There were people that were normal people there.
Were there people there with tiki torches?
That was at the night before. That's
Okay,
irrelevant
pause.
because he did.
That's a weak one, because I have seen the whole quote, and it's a bit misleading to just be like, he said that there were fine people on both sides. I don't really think Biden running because of that is like more misinformation, though, because he could still run because of the horrible things, and Trump did say that line. Yeah, I don't know. That just doesn't seem like a strong point. Sorry, bud.
He disavowed the Nazis.
You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
What's up, Steven?
Hi, what's up?
So, tell me, misinformation, you mean like fake dossiers or like rhetoric that has a president get assassinated, attempts to get assassinated? You mean like that kind of misinformation
By another Republican?
that caused 3 assassination attempts?
Do you know why those people tried those assassination attempts? Do we even
I don't know. You're your friends, right? Didn't you say like
I
one of
don't
the
think any of them are
Republicans
my
that she got shot, right?
I
You
don't
had
think
no
any of those
problem with
people
that,
are my
right?
friends.
So I mean
None of the
that's the
shooters
level
were
of
my friends.
disinformation.
Weren't 2 of them like registered Republicans?
So they say.
Yeah.
Were they watching your content?
Were they watching my
Yeah,
content?
that's what they said.
Who's they?
They,
The
you know,
Jews or
I don't know about that.
Okay,
Isn't that
I
the
don't know
same?
who they-
Isn't that the same misinformation? The dossiers, the rhetoric that he's a bad, he's going to ruin the country.
dossiers?
Oh, you know, like the one that Hillary Clinton bought, right? You
Okay,
know,
the one that was published by
the one,
BuzzFeed Media.
the fake one. You know,
Well, I don't know if
the one that
everything
whole
that was
that led
fake,
that whole FBI, you know, investigation that wasted a whole bunch of Americans' money, right?
Okay.
That
Well, no,
fake
I don't think
dossier.
I would say. I think that the Mueller investigation turned out more credible indictments and information than the Hillary Clinton email investigation, than the whole Benghazi waste of time.
Yeah,
and
but it
almost
was all
everything
that,
related to
all
Hunter
that
Biden's
stuff
son.
that
Or
came
Joe
from
Biden's-
the, you know, the Democrat Party, all that fake news, right? Is that what you're talking about? When
I don't know. I don't know
misinformation?
if you call it fake news. It was a dossier that they paid for to be researched
That
by
was
another
back-
person.
that was-
I
that
mean,
was-
he
that
said
was-
that there was low confidence in a lot of it. Just
And
like, for
so-
instance, would you acknowledge that all this about Hunter Biden and his illegal dealings with Burisma and Joe Biden, like profiting off that? That's all fake news too.
No, I just know he does a lot of cocaine.
Okay.
Did you do cocaine with him?
No, I don't.
You coon with him?
Not recently, no.
Oh my God, the ad hom. I mean, stop cooming, but the ad hom, it's a debate.
Because you are the Coomer Gremlin, right?
Am I the Coomer Gremlin?
Well, we know you are.
Yeah, like Donald Trump is when he
No,
was like
no.
a prostitute, like 4 years or 4 months after his wife had a child at home when he was cheating with Stormy Daniels.
You mean like how you
remember
take your
that?
wife to go get banged
I'm
out
not
by a
running for
bunch of dudes and
president.
suck
Am I
the
running for
dude's
president
dick?
right now? Are you going to vote for me or?
No, I
right?
wouldn't vote
Do you
for
remember?
you.
So do you remember when Donald Trump was f***ing Stormy Daniels?
No, but do you remember
4
when you were
months
sucking a
after?
dick on,
4
like,
months
podcast or
after?
something
4 months
like
after she
saying
had a
like a nice
child.
throbbing
You remember
cock,
that?
right? You remember that?
You notice that?
Remember that?
I like that the standard that you set for me is the same as you set for your president. I'm not running
Oh,
for
I'm not
president.
running.
You understand
You're
that,
not my
right?
standard for president.
Okay, well then why are you comparing Trump to me?
No shit. They're all just ad homing during this one. I don't know why. Well, it's probably because they don't really have like a strong refutation to this. Because it's like categorically reality that there has been more disinformation on the MAGA side of politics than there has been on the progressive side. It's just that's just a categorical reality. The common theme is they refuse to acknowledge anything. Yeah, as soon as they just dodge. It's gish galloping. When you get cornered on one point, you just gallop away over to the next point and refuse to acknowledge the first point. They're all taking a page out of the Andrew Wilson debate tactics book, or the debate purgatory book, if you will.
Because I'm just.
Pause.
Exactly,
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
Yeah, obviously. Oh no, she's the worst. She was the worst. Oh, this is gonna be funny.
Okay, so everybody seems to be bringing up neo-Nazis and neo-nationalism. That seems to be coming up, and I want to know why. Under Obama, Joe Biden was the vice president. Under Obama, and they are United States government. This is a fact. organized a coup against the government of Ukraine. And Ukraine is known as one of the #1 countries where where neo-Nazis
Is that a fact?
are going to train. You have the Azov battalion, you have the right.
The United States initially stopped providing weapons to the Azov battalion due to its founders' neo-Nazi ideology, but lifted the ban after the unit was absorbed by the Ukrainian National Guard and rejected far-right ideology. The State Department found, oh, okay, so it's like kind of a fact. Like, not really, though.
So one, the Azov battalion, I think at its most had like 600 or 700 people that might have been identified as neo-Nazis. Maybe, number one. Number two, the United States did not engage in any type of coup or
There is
anything in
a
Ukraine.
coup. It's
No, there
reported.
wasn't.
Yeah,
No, it's
yeah,
not.
Victoria Nuland.
Yeah, I understand. I'm
Victoria
aware of the
Nuland.
new.
The Newland leak. Ambassador to Ukraine discussing their support.
Newland leak. All she said was that we would all
Newland leak with
the
Jeffrey
leaked phone
Pyatt.
call
Then
where
why
all
did
they
they
say
why did they
where
remove Jeffrey
say
Pyatt from the embassy?
the leak call
Why
just
did
said
they
that they
remove
would
Jeffrey
prefer
Pyatt from the
one
embassy?
leader of another.
Why did
There's
they kick him out of
absolutely no
Ukraine?
evidence
All of
that
this is on
Euromaidan
video.
was
This is on
concocted.
video.
You're delusional. You're a crazy
Maidan,
person.
I'm a
She is a crazy person.
crazy person because of Maidan?
You're a
Okay,
crazy
okay,
person. Yes.
Привет, как дела? No, нет.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. You don't understand what happened, and you're making
Yep.
up claims that aren't true. This is
She's already getting voted out because they all know it's not
No,
true.
we've all heard them 50 million times because it's the only things that you guys can propagate to try to claim that the United States engaged in a coup
You
over
guys
there.
haven't brought this up at all. I'm bringing it up right now.
Okay.
Adios.
You've been voted
Jeez, it's unhinged. It's so crazy.
out by the majority.
Hi.
So I just want to address the fact, recently we had a debate and
Ugh, please be a normal person. Please just be a normal person.
so there wasn't any fact checks on Kamala Harris really anytime, especially when she claimed that Democrats don't support third trimester abortion and that it never happens. That recently happened not too long ago, Washington, D.C. with Caesar Santangelo. There were 5 third trimester babies who were aborted. We've seen this with Kermit Gosnell as well.
Can I ask, what were those 5 babies aborted for?
Why does that matter? They were still killed third trimester, fully developed,
Well,
their
the question
spines
is
completely snapped.
Was the abortion a part of like a medical procedure for the life of the mother?
No.
So it was a totally
It was an
elective?
elective,
Okay,
yes.
I'll look it up afterwards. My understanding is 1, this is incredibly rare. 2, I don't even know if the vast majority of Democrats would support this. 3, I don't know if the vast majority of like pro-choice people would support this.
But the thing is,
I haven't-
over
I would have to look-
90% of Democrats actually don't. They are okay They are okay with there not being any limits on abortion. If
I
we
think
look
that,
at the states, there's
I don't think it's 90%. There's definitely a big number, which is very scary. But I don't think it's 90%.
6 states, including Washington, D.C., which is a district that has no restrictions on abortion. That means that all of those states are Democrat states. So, yes, that side is perpetuating and at least setting a very dangerous precedent that this can happen in those states.
I think the reason why they advocate for no laws in those states, and I would have like maybe there's a better way to craft a law for it, but the problem is that if you make it illegal, then if a medical issue does come up, there's a potential roadblock or a hurdle there where a person might die waiting to get some type of like legal
But someone
approval for
always
something.
dies in an abortion. Someone always dies. A human being always dies.
With all
when
due
we don't
respect,
have
this is an insane position, and
No,
I'm
it's
not
not.
going
How
to
is
take the
it an
position. I'm not going to
insane
take the position that the life of the fetus is going to be prioritized over the life of the mother because you want to make an abortion illegal there in that case. I don't think you have
So
the
it's
right to make that
okay to
decision.
kill a human
I think that
being
I
just
think
for
it's better.
any
I think
sort
that
of
the mother and I
reason.
think that the family should be making that decision.
So-
I don't think that the government should be stepping in and saying we're
I
gonna
don't think
choose
that
this
the
life over
government
This is a bad position. I don't like this position at all. I'm like very, very hesitant about the entire abortion thing. It's just no part of any part of it sits right with me.
should allow people to kill people for no reason.
But
That's
you're
what
saying that you would turn the woman away from medical treatment because she can't engage in an abortion. at
No,
that point
that's
in time.
not what I'm saying. That's not the claim that I'm making. What I'm saying is that that side is saying that no one supports it, that no laws are giving precedent for third trimester abortions when that's happening. And even if it is a small number, say it's 1% of all abortions, that's still over 15,000 abortions. That's 3 times the amount of kids who die in school shootings, which is a tragedy, and that's an issue we all all need a fix. But that's still a significant amount of people that are dying from abortion, and no Democrat is acknowledging that. And I think it should be at least acknowledged.
Okay, I mean, if Republicans want to put together any type of like pro-choice legislation that they feel like Democrats would support, I mean, then they can have that conversation. But obviously, that's not going to happen. So
No,
when
it's
Democrats
not,
are
because it's not
engaging
okay
in
to kill
that, because
someone.
when Democrats are engaging with that conversation with Republicans, Republicans bring up the third trimester stuff, but you guys don't actually care about third trimester.
Why do
You
we
care
not
about,
care?
because I'm
side
about to
doesn't-
explain it. Because you care about all 3 trimesters. You just use it exactly. So you don't want to ban third trimester abortion. You want to ban all abortion.
yes,
but you
absolutely.
hyperfixate on the third trimester abortion as a way to get
No,
into the
because it's
conversation.
happening because your side denies that it happens, and it does
Even
happen.
if they acknowledge that it happened, or even if they ban third trimester abortion, you guys would still want to get rid of
So
all
you're
abortion.
okay with third trimester abortion?
I'm
Okay,
okay.
pause. Please return to your seats.
Ugh, it's just a bull conversation. I just don't like it at all. I don't like any part of it.
Number one, I'm a MAGA gangster. I'm outside when it comes to
All right, so not a normal person.
Trump. Have you ever been to a rally?
Yes,
That's number one.
fortunately,
I don't know
yeah.
if you book smart or
I've
if
been to
you're
rallies
really
before.
outside, because
I've
I'm
been to a
outside. I'm outside. And you basically said MAGAs thrive off of lies. First of all, you ever seen a Trump rally? You don't see all of the unity and love out there?
Nope, I see things
You don't
saying
see
like
unity
deport all
and
the
love.
immigrants, and I see more MAGA flags, and I see
All right,
than I
so
see American
you support,
flags.
all right, let me ask you this. You
Yeah.
support Black Lives Matter?
Not that much.
But Black Lives Matter only when media put it out. That's number one. Trump is bringing a lot of unity and love. You support burning and looting. That's what you support.
Actually, he just said he doesn't really support Black Lives Matter. So I I don't think the speech he prepared was prepared for that.
And it tripped me out how you could support someone that just want the world to just go crazy, burning and looting. And I heard you say something earlier that's crazy. You said you hate America. Talk about that.
I don't think I ever said I hate America.
Yes, you did. And
When did I say I hate America?
And it made me look at you even
When did I
more.
say I hate?
You did-
In what
you
context?
said it earlier. You said it earlier.
I don't
You
think
said,
so. I
hate
think
America.
I said that I
that's why Trump is
like
gonna make
America. I
America
like
great
America.
again.
I don't think
Trump
MAGA people like America. I don't think you
2024.
guys have any idea what it means to be American. I don't think you know what American values are. I don't think you know what this country was founded or built upon. And I think you guys are obsessed with a cult leader who is taking the entire
leader.
Republican Party off of a cliff.
Everything he say he do. Trump is gangster. Remember
Can you give me one thing you don't like about Trump?
what I don't like about him? I love everything about him.
I know, because it's a f***ing cult. Thank you.
It's not a
Yes. If you can't name one thing you don't like about him, that's not good. That's not good.
cult. I'm from
cult.
No, it's not
That's
a cult. Everything is a cult if you want to think about it.
Okay.
Everything is a cult.
To somebody in a cult, that's probably true. Yeah.
He's someone that's representing and Kamala, whatever.
All the flags at once. They're like, whoa, bro, nope, nope, we don't co-sign this. None of them agree with each other. They are they're booting each other as quickly as the Christians were booting each other during the Alex O'Connor surrounded.
Whatever her name is, she out of here. Trump 2024. Let's go.
Why are some of them here? I don't get it. How did Jubilee choose these people? Like, why is she here? Why is he here?
Hi.
Hi.
Jenny, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So you think that people that support Trump are in a cult. Why is that?
I feel like Donald Trump is basically untouchable. He can do no wrong. The entire conservative party is basically centered around Donald Trump. Any person that goes against Donald Trump, it can be so many people. Everybody still looks at all of those people around him as being the fault and never Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was in office, it was because of
These people are crazy. Yeah, it's weird too. So like Jubilee tends to do this. Like the person in the center is like an actual informed person, and then the surrounded people are like they just found them on the street. Like they're purely content creators. Like they're not pundits, they're not informed, they're just content creators. And that's why they almost all, like half of them at least, have resorted to ad hom. There's been like 2 people so far that had like any semblance of like an intelligent thought to go along with their ideology. This girl seems nice so far, but the last time I said that, I was wrong.
The swamp. When people like Barr turned against him, it was because he was a rhino. When people like McCarthy didn't, like carry his banner, it's because he's a rhino. People it's this labeling of every single person around that says he's a bad guy is, oh, those people are rhinos and Trump is great and Trump can do no wrong, basically.
I think that's false. I don't think Trump is a perfect human being. I think anybody out here that's voting for Trump knows that he is not innocent. No top businessman, no top politician got to the top without getting their hands dirty. I think what we're all voting for is based on his policies. I think he prioritizes the economy. I think he stands for women's rights, and that is something that's very, very important to me. Do you think that Trump likes women? Do you think he respects them at all?
Yeah, Trump loves women. I don't know if he respects them. When we say
Really?
that people
You don't think
support,
Destiny would know. No offense. I'm kidding. It's kind of true though.
no.
Why not?
I think the types of statements alone that he makes about women, I think, call that into question. But you said earlier that people support Trump because of his policies. I don't think that's true because I don't even know what policies of Trump that nobody even talks about them.
Oh, really? He posted on his Twitter, he posted that like 20 promises he's going to make to America. He's going to make trans women competing in women's sports illegal. I think that is something that needs to be said, that he does support women in that register.
Are these things are these like the most important issues to you?
I think so.
Okay.
I am a woman after all. At least I know
You're
I
competing in
am.
a lot of NCAA or whatever athletic events?
I attended San Jose State. I graduated from there. You do realize that there is a transgender person that's on that volleyball team, and nobody on that team was told that there was a transgender woman on there?
I didn't know this was the largest issue in the election for you. It just seems like a pretty minor thing
I
altogether.
think women's rights in general is a big thing.
Okay, but not the right to an abortion.
Right to abortion isn't actually a woman's right. It's a woman's rights thing. It's a totally separate issue. It's not like, so when we talk about women's rights, we're talking about in comparison to men's rights, and men have no reproductive rights. So it's a totally side issue. That's like totally, it's divorced from like the rights thing completely. It's all to do with like this, like the whole abortion debate. It's a life. No, it's not. Okay, cool. Good talk. Like that's the whole conversation. It's a totally tangential thing. So I don't know if I buy that, but I don't think just the trans woman in sports thing is like that's not a long list of Trump supporting women. That's like a pretty short list. Maybe she had other things and they just voted her out too quickly. I don't know. I don't know why they voted her out. She was like at least talking normally and rationally. It's because they're crazy.
So you talk about misinformation, but
Andrew's
you're giving us a
back.
ton of misinformation right now. You said, seems like nobody in MAGA even wants to talk about any of the issues of Donald Trump. Had multiple debaters come up, talk to you about multiple economic policies, compare and contrast them with Kamala, gave you great reason.
I don't think I heard any economic policy from Trump when he was in 4 years.
Okay,
Yeah, what were
okay.
his economic
No,
policies?
back up. Now you're switching the claim. So what you just claimed is, I don't hear MAGA people talk about this at all.
I don't think I heard any
That's
policies
what
that were
you
brought up.
said, and
Yeah.
yes, they did. They
What were
brought
they?
up, they
Well, they were talking about like the tariffs and stuff, so they technically did bring some stuff up, but that was earlier in the debate. That wasn't during this part.
brought up the capital gains policies. They also brought
What were the
up
capital
they
gains
also brought up tariffs. They brought up the tariff policies. They brought up multiple economic policies. Total misinfo.
Okay.
Total misinfo for you to say they didn't. They absolutely did. Are you disputing that nobody here brought up any policies of Donald
I think that when you're talking policies from somebody, if the only thing you have are tariffs, it's not really a strong policy foundation.
I'm
to support
sorry.
somebody.
I'm sorry. Did you use the word any? You don't hear anybody talk about
I'm
that?
speaking like a human being right now.
Oh, but when
right?
Donald Trump speaks
So
like a
when
human
he-
being, he's a
Donald
liar.
Trump doesn't speak like a human being.
Yeah, he's
a moron.
Anytime.
I'm sorry, but Donald
So-
Trump speaks like an
So
idiot.
would you
Yeah.
say it's misinformation, for instance? Is it misinformation when you say that a firefighter who got murdered at a rally, when you laugh at that and you say that that's totally fine, are you spreading misinformation?
I don't know if
Are
I said
you-
that's totally fine. I think I said
Yeah.
I don't really have any sympathy for
No,
people who
you,
get
no,
shot
you
at from
didn't. You
rallies.
laughed about it. You thought it was fun.
He didn't say it was totally fine though. He just said he doesn't have sympathy Those are two different things, Andrew. Come on, Andrew. The thing about Andrew is he knows when he's being bad faith better than anyone else here. He knows that this is bad faith tactics.
Funny, you didn't give a shit. You were under fire on Twitter for weeks until you finally backed away.
I haven't backed away from any of those statements.
Yeah.
You can go find the.
You haven't backed away from any of them?
No, not at all.
You don't care that the guy died, right?
People died. Rally
Yeah, you don't care.
When this side is involved
But you
in
care
some
about
of the most
misinfo?
violent, divisive. Here's a
You
question.
care about misinfo?
Here's a question. That has nothing to do with misinfo. Here's a question.
I'll
wait.
explain how it's
Wait. Do you
misinfo.
disavow any of the rhetoric about Paul Pelosi? Do you disavow any of the rhetoric about Paul Pelosi?
What? Even if I made any outrageous claim possible, it has nothing to do with your claim, which
Do you
is what
disavow any
we're
of
talking
the, do you
about. We're
disavow
talking
any
about
of
your
that?
claim.
You don't.
Stop
He doesn't.
switching.
He doesn't. Of course not.
Stop
He doesn't
switching
acknowledge
the
what happened on
goalposts.
January 6th. He doesn't acknowledge
And
that
you're
people are turning
filibustering.
away
You're
FEMA
filibustering.
right now
Stop
because
spurging.
they're
Stop
convinced that
spurging.
the federal government's going to take their houses.
Stop spurging.
You are, you
Stop
just engage in all the time.
spurging in
You
answer
can say
to
stop
the
spurging over and
question.
over again. I'm not here
Yeah,
to
I'm going
talk about
to.
my tweets,
Are
but if
you
that's what you
ever-
really want to
are
talk
you-
about.
These two know each other too well to be sitting across the table from each other trying to actually talk. They're both having debates from the past, like flashbacks going through their heads right now.
Dude, I've
Are you
tweeted
going
crazier
to
shit than that, I
acknowledge
promise.
Are you going to acknowledge that you said totally fine? You didn't care. You just said right now you don't
Go and
care.
find- you can look at all my
How
tweets.
is it now? Let me explain how
What does
it's.
that have to do with
I'm going
misinformation?
to explain how it's misinformation.
Okay.
Because don't you think that if you make claims like Donald Trump is un-American, Donald Trump doesn't like the Constitution, and then you have an assassin come, he tries to kill Donald J. Trump at a rally, another American dies. Aren't you spreading misinformation by saying to people, this is okay? Isn't that
I don't think
un-American?
I've ever said this is
Isn't
okay.
it
I've said
un-American?
over and over again that there shouldn't be any political violence in the United
That's
States.
great.
It's not good.
That's
you can laugh.
great.
You guys are the ones that
Donald
support
Trump
it.
said that on
You
January
guys deny
6th.
it.
He said it during January
After
6th.
he sat and watched it happen for 3
Oh,
hours.
well, after
when
the
he was
guy died,
only
now you're
person-
sorry about your
What-
rhetoric.
Who said I was sorry?
Yeah, you're not
Excuse me?
sorry,
Please stop
exactly.
projecting onto
Not
me. I never said I was sorry
sorry
about
at all.
anything.
Yeah, you don't
I've not said that. Yeah, unlike you, I have a spine over the things that I say, okay?
No,
Number one.
okay.
Number two, Donald Trump and your side are the ones that have engaged in divisive rhetoric for years. This idea that saying Donald Trump is un-American when Donald Trump himself says that he would be a day one dictator,
Divisive
that
rhetoric
he would
is fine.
suspend the Constitution. I'm sorry,
No,
if the divisive
there's a
rhetoric
difference
keeps
between
quoting
divisive
Donald
rhetoric
Trump
and
back at you,
assassinating the
that's
guy.
Donald Trump's problem. Maybe you
Your
should
rhetoric has led to assassination attempts, and one of the guys who died there, you don't even give a shit, and I've said this multiple times. And at the same time, you're like, oh, I love America. What kind of bullshit is this, Destiny?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
When you guys start
unbelievable.
taking accountability for some of the crazy things that you say, come and talk to me, okay? Come and talk to me.
Well, I'm glad they could, work that out. Jesus Christ.
Okay, so we're gonna do a 5-minute extension.
He did not wait for the timer.
All right, I want to go back to kind of your original claim, which
Well, yeah, of course. But it's because when Andrew and Destiny debate and they have like 5 minutes to do it, they're not even talking to each other. They're having like flashbacks and PTSD about all the other debates they've had, and just like they're both just like fucking crazy about it. It's kind of pointless to have Andrew here, especially when he has all these other morons on the panel that are voting everybody off after like 2 minutes. It's this whole format is pretty absurd.
Information.
Well, can you restate your original claim?
I think MAGA thrives on disinformation. They are in a totally different reality now than they ever have been.
So that actually wasn't your original claim. Your original claim was that
The MAGA movement wouldn't exist without the amount of disinformation. Yeah, something
Right.
like that.
Okay. So how can you possibly know that?
Well, I can't know through all possible worlds if they wouldn't.
Right. Exactly. So right off the bat, your initial claim is false.
Okay, well, if this is a philosophy 101 class, then you've completely and totally debunked me, sir. Yeah.
Wow. Great. Debunked. Great.
That's not a W, dude. That's not a W.
Well, so great. Your initial claim is false. Glad you can admit that. Now you want to go.
Yeah, this kid's face. Look, it's so off-putting. I don't know what it is. It's so round. Like, what is happening?
Go to the disinformation topic. Well, one, I think a lot of the rhetoric that you're spewing is very divisive for our nation because a lot of the times you're assuming people's intentions on these things, right? You're assuming that people are purposefully ignorant when you're in no position to actually know something like that.
I don't know if people are purposely ignorant or not. I actually, unironically, I hold the individuals a lot less accountable than I do the content creators.
Well, but you don't talk to people like that.
Well, I usually am talking to content creators. Even most of the people in here, I think, are like on TikTok or something else. A lot of these, I've seen a lot of these faces.
Okay, so that's an assumption without any evidence.
Hold on, are you saying that I'm assuming without evidence that most of the people that I talk to tend to be like
no, most
creators?
of the people in this room. That's what you're assuming.
Okay.
So anyways, again, you're assuming the intentions of these people, and that's not true. You're assuming that we're part of this MAGA cult, which is not true at all.
I mean, the guy here earlier literally said that Trump.
Well, okay. Well, maybe some people, right? And I don't believe that Trump can do no wrong, and I think most Republicans believe that, right? I'm disgusted by some of his personal behavior. I think his stances on abortion. He's gone way too far left.
You've been voted out by the majority.
Why are they voting out the people that are just talking normally? I don't get it. It's like they came here with the intention of not accomplishing anything.
Hey, well, your original claim was false, so that's great to hear.
Oh, this kid again.
So, you made the claim that Matt.
Or his face hasn't grown into his body yet. I think is the actual problem. Like his face is still 16, but he's like 20 something.
MAGA wouldn't exist or Make America wouldn't exist without
All the misinformation, yeah.
Obviously not a true statement. I think you just admitted that.
Well, I mean, likely they would. I can't prove that 100%.
Okay, and this started way back during the Reagan years, so that.
I think it's accelerated a lot with social media, and it's accelerated a lot under Trump and MAGA. Okay, because Trump is the first guy that just lies with impunity, and there's no accountability on the conservative side when he does.
So speaking of people who who believe in MAGA, it seems like based off of the rhetoric that you have said, all of the people in here and the millions of people who are kind of fall under that umbrella of believing in Make America Great Again. You act like we're some cult and we're some evil people. All of us are human. Every person in this room.
I mean, asylum seekers are human, illegal immigrants are human, but you guys talk about deporting.
Can you stop interrupting me? I'm talking.
Yeah, you're
I'm talking. I'm talking.
Okay, so am I.
Let's be respectful.
I don't have to be.
So, everyone here in this room is human. And people who are Make America Great Again and who go to these Trump rallies love each other and love.
Why did he just get voted out? What is going on? What is wrong with these people? They have like 1 minute left.
Other people and love humans and want to, they want to see the betterment of society and betterment of everybody in this country.
Return to your seats.
What's up, Stephen? Okay, so again, I think that the misinformation is far more rampant on your side. Kamala Harris'
What are like
entire,
three big misinformation? Okay.
Project 2025. Huge misinformation. It's not Trump's
What's the
plan.
misinformation? Trump's Vance probably supports it. I think Trump broadly
Is
supports
Trump
a lot of
Trump Vance?
Vance?
Yeah, you can say he supports a lot of
He's
things.
his
in it,
vice
but doesn't mean he
presidential
supports the
candidate.
plan. Yeah, okay. Can VPs and presidents disagree with each other?
I guess Pence and him disagree quite a bit.
Okay,
I guess.
great. That's fine. Okay, and there have been plenty of examples of this past, like McKinley and Roosevelt disagreed staunchly. Okay, so this is not rare. Project 2025 is Kamala Harris's primary talking point, and it is not Trump's agenda. Trump has his own agenda published on his website, Agenda 47. There are some overlaps there. He agrees with some things in that project, but not all of them. The primary one being, again, Kamala Harris's biggest talking point, which is that Trump is going to institute a national abortion ban, which he has publicly disavowed.
Well, I think the problem was for a long time, I don't think he would say no to that, although I think he has said that he wouldn't vote on it.
Over and over again, he said no.
I've heard him go back and forth on it. Personally, I don't like the Project 2025 talking point. I think it's kind of cringe. I don't know if
it's misinformation.
Would I go as far as to call it misinformation? I'm not sure.
Why?
But even if I would call it
Why
misinformation,
wouldn't you call it misinformation, Destiny?
Because it's written by a conservative think tank.
Okay, so what? So
speaking.
who cares?
Hold on.
So what?
Yeah, well, I might say that if even if I were to grant that as to be misinformation, it's nowhere near on the level of Haitians are eating cats and dogs.
Okay. Do you think that I actually argue totally the opposite, right? I think that it definitely is on that level, considering she's prescribing Trump's entire policy platform, trying to claim that Trump's entire policy platform is something that it isn't, and there are lots of things that Republicans.
I just quickly fact checked that because I wasn't 100% sure. He did not do a abortion ban. He's done some abortion restrictions, but he did not do that ban yet.
Disagree in that policy
Donald Trump, if he wanted,
and it's a lie.
And if Donald Trump wanted to fight against it, maybe he could just have a policy platform, and maybe just.
He does have a policy platform. Agenda 47. It's on his website.
Yeah, I've read it.
Yeah, he
It's
does.
a joke. It's things like we're going to bring down the interest rates. He can't even do that
That's
as
the same thing
president.
with Kamala Harris's policy platform.
No, she can't bring
Her
down
entire
interest
section
rates.
on housing is 4 paragraphs.
Yeah, but she
Destiny.
can't bring down interest rates. At the very least, there's some solid stuff there, even if I think it's a little bit too far to the
Sure,
left.
but
of me.
are you saying there's no policy proposals at all?
I'm saying that Donald Trump, when Donald Trump speaks, he doesn't talk.
It's more
policy
fleshed out
ever.
than her plan.
No,
for
I
sure.
don't think so.
Okay. Her entire housing section is 4 paragraphs, and one of them
I think
I
Donald
would
Trump's
hardly
is
count as
one.
a paragraph.
I think it's one paragraph.
All right,
Okay,
guys, we're time.
But 4
We're at
times
time.
better.
Okay, please
All right.
return to your seat.
All right. We got the long one now. This is going to be the last bit. Let's see who he picks.
Oh, yeah. Actually, you know what? This one, right over here.
Okay. All right.
I chose you because you'll break my heart the most, because you sound somewhat reasonable, intelligent, but you just say the craziest things, and yeah, so.
True.
Now I'm just going to try to figure out for 10 minutes if you really believe it, or if you're hardcore just carrying water for some political side.
So, Stephen, my claim is that President Biden should pardon President Trump. No matter who wins the election, President Biden ran on unity. When he came and gave that inauguration speech on January 20th, 2021, he wanted to unify the country. The best way for President Biden to leave office is to pardon President Trump and to try to bring the country together. I think as a MAGA movement, 75 million people may look at Biden and say, look, we have our political disagreements with this guy. But the fact that he pardoned Trump, much like Gerald Ford did, much like there's examples in our country of folks reaching across the aisle and doing, at that point, I think you could probably argue that Trump has the authority to pardon himself. Largely, these cases will drop if he doesn't win the election. But I think it would be a very powerful signal for the unity of the country for President Biden to pardon him.
I think there are at least 3 really good reasons why that should absolutely never happen.
Okay.
So the first one is Donald Trump doesn't need to be pardoned, because the Supreme Court's already said that the president can enjoy full and absolute criminal immunity when he's doing his job. So if he's already gotten that carve out from the Supreme Court, well, why should he need any more help to be pardoned for any other types of crimes, unless we're saying that he did crimes that weren't even part of the job of being the president? I would say that's the first one. Do you want to do the other 2? Or do you want to go for it? Okay. The other 2, the second one is I think that Donald Trump has done abhorrent things in the abuse of office that I think he absolutely should be accountable for. I think that he should answer for these things. I think it's destructive to lead this idea that you can act above the law and get away with it. And I think for the third point, the idea that Democrats have to be the ones that continue to come to the table and be like, okay, we're going to do this, or okay, we're going to try to heal, and okay, we're going to do unity. When you've got Biden up here, you know, saying like, I'm going to be a president for everybody, I'm going to do unity, and then Donald Trump is saying things like immigrants are the poison to the lifeblood of this nation, and like crazy stuff like this. Like the back and forth of conservatives being unhinged and Democrats having to like apologize for behavior. I don't like the double standard anymore. I don't think you can exist inside of it.
Okay, let's talk about President Biden and the unity claim. You do agree that he ran on the platform of unity, and
Absolutely.
That was the theme of his inauguration.
Yes.
We can both agree on that, right, Stephen?
Yep.
When he called MAGA Republicans a threat to democracy, was that a sign of unity?
That speech absolutely is. And
Really?
Yes.
Why
if you
so?
read the whole speech, he says over and over again, in a totally pointless manner, because, and I'm aware, because I'm part of the TikTok culture as well, he said over and over again, not even most Republicans are MAGA Republicans. When he said MAGA Republicans, he was talking about the subsection of people that deny the results of the last election, that don't even believe in things like institutions or peaceful transfers of power or the country operating as like a cohesive unit. He spells out over and over again that he's not talking about all conservatives, but people just clip that one line and then the picture with the red behind him and say, oh my God, look at what he was saying.
As a matter of fact, though, 72% of Republicans believe that there were serious issues in the 2020 election, just as a matter of
but
empirical
why do they
fact.
believe that?
Well, but just as a matter of empirical fact. So you've got 70% of 75 million people believe that. You are still making a very wide and sweeping statement about working class Americans, black, white, Hispanic Americans, saying that they're a threat to democracy.
I don't know if all of them necessarily don't believe like hardcore that there was like voter rigging as opposed to the media was biased or something, because Trump kind of used to dance around those claims.
Sure.
But for as much as people believe that there were issues with the election, it's because Donald Trump told them. That's it. Like, and a lot of the lies that started out in the Trump camp, we know now were completely and wholly fabricated. Everything having to do with that State Farm video was a total lie from the very beginning. Everything having to do with the media
True.
money.
That's true. That shit was bullshit. Most of the election fraud claims ended up being just absolute nonsense.
Was a total lie from the very beginning. There are so many of these claims that when you look at the genesis of them, they were either fabricated or were maliciously constructed.
But doesn't President Biden have an obligation to be a president for all Americans, even those who vehemently disagree with him?
When you say vehemently disagree, yes. But for people that don't believe in the results of the election, this is the issue, is that conservatives have pushed the boundaries of what you can tolerate in a society that can function together, right? If a conservative wants to come out and say, I think that we need small government and I don't believe in the government, you know, providing all this relief and all this or whatever, and I think we should have small government or whatever, okay, I disagree with that, that's fine, whatever. We can still exist together and we can argue, okay? But when people are saying, I'm not, there was a phone call into a radio show where the guy's talking about his father-in-law is turning away FEMA because he thinks that FEMA is going to steal his house. That's, we're breaking down institutions to a point to where we can't function.
Martin Creed, welcome to the chat. All I get from this is that America needs to invest more in how they educate their people. So it's actually not more. We spend more percent of our GDP on our education system than any other country on the planet. So it's not about investing more money. We have to change the education system fundamentally. It's fundamentally broken. Like, just from like the actual, like, what we're being taught in school to how we're being taught. It's like every part of it is just fundamentally not working currently. We could probably actually spend a little bit less money and get much better results. Because it can't be the investment, because we already invest more than every other country in the world, and we don't have the best education system in the world when it comes to like our youth education. We do have some of the best universities, but those are more like private. Those are kind of divorced from the situation a little bit. But I do understand what the spirit of what you're saying, definitely.
We need institutions as much as we might hate, and we need them to function. And conservatives spend every breath undermining them, and that is becoming dysfunctional. I don't know what you're supposed to do in that circumstance.
Well, I think what you can do is, and I'm not saying this isn't without risk, there's certainly some negative optics to it, but I would say that that gesture, I'll tell you, you take away the ammunition from one side if you say, I'm going to extend the olive branch. And by the way, even if it's purely ceremonial and symbolic, even if the president can end up pardoning himself, even if President Trump wins, then the question becomes, why doesn't Biden do that as a symbol of genuine unity? Genuine unity. Stephen.
I don't think there is an olive branch that would be accepted. I don't think anybody would see it as any type of, I think that arguably, I've seen back and forth.
So I understand what he's saying, like, and I do think that this gentleman here, not Destiny, the other guy, I don't know all the conservatives' names. I do think that he does believe that this will be helpful. I think he genuinely believes that the Democrats putting forth that like completely ceremonial like olive branch would sort of calm down the anti-establishment MAGA, like, what's a good word? The like fervor, I guess. Yeah, because it's like a fervor. It's like if we don't have any institutions, and what, like, we don't even have a country. Like, there's no point in even a government. There's no point in doing any of it. And I do believe that he thinks that this would help that situation. I don't know if I agree with him, though. I don't think that it would actually help. I think it runs way deeper than that. I think it would look good in the news for maybe a couple of weeks, but I don't actually think it would change the trajectory of the way the MAGA movement has been moving. And again, we have to remember this debate took place like 8 months ago. So this was just before the election.
Forth on this, that Merrick Garland probably dragged his feet on prosecuting Trump and in appointing Jack Smith and all the charges that were filed, and that was a massive mistake, that he shouldn't have waited on that should have been something he moved much quicker on. But because of this obsession with liberals and the media to appear unbiased and to be nice to both sides and to treat both sides equally, even when, in my opinion, obviously one side is acting far more recklessly, it's destroying the country. We talked about Israel-Palestine earlier. We can talk about like children in the store. When somebody is acting inappropriately, or they're acting out of line, or they're behaving in a way that is unsustainable, that behavior has to be brought in line somehow. You cannot run a ship when half the people are trying to row in the other direction. And right now, conservatives are undermining every single facet of this country. And I don't know how we're supposed to function in that environment, right? Where we say like, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and pardon Trump. What if we pardon Trump and then he just commits more crimes? Or what if we pardon Trump and then the next Republican president goes, well, I can probably get away with it because they're going to cuck out for unity in the end, so it'll be great, right? What do you do at that point?
I disagree with you on conservatives threatening the country. I would even say that Democrats don't threaten the country. I think most Americans want a secure border, an economy that works for everybody, good education. To your point about, quibbles over tax policy and regulation, do you believe that a supporter of the deportation of illegal migrants falls into that category of a radical conservative?
I think that's a radical position, but I don't think that's like a beyond the pale position.
Okay.
I think it's done for a variety of reasons, but no, I don't think it's beyond the pale.
Right. And I mean, look, Axios Ipsos found this in April that 55% of Americans, not just conservatives, Americans support the mass deportation of illegal migrants. 46% of Democrats do. Why do you think that is when you look at places like Chicago and New York? Why longtime
I think it can be for a
Democrats?
variety of reasons, but again, this isn't an issue. It's like the minimum wage. I think that we probably need a minimum wage, but I don't think that agreeing or disagreeing on this makes you un-American. Same thing with like abortion,
right?
Even, which is way more charged. I don't think it makes you un-American. Things like immunity for crimes for the president, that's a deeply un-American value, that the president can't be charged with criminal behavior, even in the role of his job. That, in my opinion, that's deeply un-American. The undermining of all the institutions, that America should have no role as like a world leader, that the way that we look at immigrants as enemies, or that we don't want to trade with anybody because you just want to, that these things are not, I wouldn't say the trade thing. I would say that like the immunity thing are a really big one. The idea of America needing to recede from the world is a big one. The idea of like the weaponizing of all of the DOJ that Trump wants to do, these are things that deeply concern me. Talking about terminating the Constitution and all of these things, yeah.
So we can have our disagreements. There's a lot there we could pick up. We've only got
Sure.
a couple minutes
Pick
left.
one, yeah, you're good. Or do
But you are an American. I'm an American. I believe that you love this country. I believe that you want the best for this country, the best for your family. Donald Trump wins on November 5th. Genuinely, what is one piece of advice you give him?
If Donald Trump wins, what is one piece of advice that you give him? Donald Trump, after he's gone, will have family
That was a
members
good question.
that remain in this world that carry his name through the world. He will have a legacy, he'll have a reputation, and that the way that he acts in his last 4 years as president will be remembered for the rest of history, for as long as America continues to exist, and that he has an opportunity in his second term at least to right some of the wrongs of the first term, or to prove people like me wrong at least when I said that the United States would become an authoritarian hellhole or whatever else. That he has an opportunity to prove people like me wrong, and I hope that he would take advantage of that.
I think that'd be great. I think that would be great for the country, to tell you the truth. Is there one policy, one position that you agree with Donald Trump on, even remotely?
The problem is I just don't like his thought process. So there are going to be things that we agree on, but like we're going to agree on them for totally.
Don't worry, Wicked. At the end of this one, I'm going to be out for the day. I have some plans tonight. I just wanted to get this video finished so I can upload the entire reaction to this video up onto YouTube before I get out of the house tonight. But I'll be back for our regularly scheduled, well, regularly scheduled is a strong word. We'll get into a regular schedule, but I'll be back on tomorrow night and Thursday night.
Different
What's an
reasons,
example
I
of
think.
that?
Like in general, I'm not as big on like DEI or affirmative action type stuff. I think for a variety of reasons has a lot of different issues. I think that having a secure border is really important. Arguably one of the most important things about having a country is having a border. I think the Democrats like broadly agree with that as well. I think that yeah, I could probably find other things, but like our agreements are going to be very roundabout. We're not getting here the same way. But I think the creation of the Space Force was good. I obviously all the conservatives hate it, but I thought Warp Speed was a tremendous achievement of capitalism, of pharmaceuticals, of the United States and U.S. leadership. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I think the big picture though, and Can we give him a round of applause?
No,
for
I don't
being
want a
here?
round of applause.
No, I don't want a round of applause.
I'm a big believer, Stephen, that when we come together as a country and have conversations, difficult.
Oh, Destiny hates this crap. He hates this crap. We need to come together and have conversations and like pretend like we're all cool. he hates this crap.
Conversations like this, we may not walk away saying, well, I agree with Stephen, or I agree with James, or I agree with any of the folks here, but you walk away saying, that's a person, that's an American. We can disagree agreeably. And I might understand for just a moment their perspectives. I want to thank you for being here. I think that the biggest thing for the country going forward, in a sense, is how do we have more debate, not less, more disagreement, not less?
Unfortunately, I totally disagree with you.
Yeah.
I was there a while ago. It's not enough to just have conversations anymore. I think we have to start taking steps in an actual direction. I think right now we are talking ourselves off a ledge. And I notice a lot of times when I have challenging conversations with people, I get all of these comments that pop up, whether it's me talking to Peterson, Shapiro, Owens, of like, what a great civil conversation. But at the end of the day, nobody's mind comes away changed, and everybody still feels the same way. And we're still accelerating off of each other faster than we ever have been before. But at least we're having good conversations on the way down to the base of the cliff, I guess.
Well, let me end.
Exactly. I knew he was going to say that. He's so done with the nice casual conversations.
Just start.
Let me end on a bipartisan note, Stephen. Let's not just make debate great again. Let's build it back better.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
I think I did about as well as I could have. I mean, there's always more like itty-bitty pieces of factual information that I could have, but it's hard to keep track of everything. But
Well, it's
yeah, I think it was
it's impossible to know every little bit of every little information that you could possibly have had going into a 25v1 debate. I mean, that's crazy.
it's okay. Maybe I could have been meaner to some people, but I'm okay.
I think that James did really
Yeah, the blonde girl. You should have been meaner to the blonde girl.
well. I think that Destiny himself did really well too. I think that Destiny is probably the best debater in the space on either side. So I think that we did really well against him considering that fact. I think that debate is important, I guess kind of counter to what Destiny thinks, even though he's a professional debater.
Part of democracy is talking. You know, we see these global conflicts in Israel, what's happening with Russia and Ukraine is because people aren't talking. I think that the Republican Party today and President Trump we want peace. We want to bring people back to the talking table and for people to be civil.
So there were some personal attacks here and there, but I think for the most part, everybody stayed on the substance of the issue. There were some.
Okay, about half of the conservatives stayed on the substance of the issue. I've heard enough out of this guy. He was pretty reasonable. All right, that was fascinating. I agree. I mean, I already know this, but I generally agree with Destiny's political and economic opinions. Social stuff, I'm way more all over the place with. But when it comes to like economy, foreign policy, the kind of things that they discussed during this, what I don't like is the claims of fascism and just the hyperbolic stuff like that. Like, you can make an argument for authoritarianism, but to make an argument for fascism, the debate is over. Like, now you're just arguing about the definition of fascism.